Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Win totals are out. People are, Vegas saying how many wins here and there. We'll go through that for a moment. But it got me thinking this year, especially for A&M, but really anywhere, hard to pick what's going to happen in college football as of today until you get a little bit more evidence, because with each passing year since the NIL movement and the transfer portal era that we're in right now, you just don't know how things are going to gel. And it's a bizarro world when you think about this is going to be a college football year without Nick Saban, without Alabama being probably the favorite, and with the new changes in SEC football and the Big Ten. So we're going to kind of talk about that this morning here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. I'm David Nuño. He's our Heisman Trophy voter. He's our columnist extraordinaire, Olin Buchanan, here on Friday, February 16th, 2024. What time is church?
Well, for me, it's 9:45.
9:45
on a Sunday, not on Friday. Look, I put on a nice shirt.
You look good, buddy.
Well, it's press conference day.
Yeah.
Plus it's one of the few things that's still, clean.
It helps
in the closet.
It looks like you're ready to.
I think I
do
told
communion.
you when I first came to work at TexAgs, I used to show up in like a dress shirt and tie.
Yep.
And then it became pretty clear
that ain't the vibe.
I was against the culture.
Yeah. I still think we should have one day a week where we have to dress up. Like when you're a varsity football player, you have to wear, I think on travel days, which you kind of do already. You kind of do dress up a little nice on travel days.
No, if you remember travel days, I always wear a TexAgs shirt.
Oh, you're right.
Because sometimes
it's game day.
We get in the airport, and we always see people kind of not always. We frequently see people staring at us, and they're like,
"Do I know him?"
And I always put the TexAgs shirt because I want to invite you if you want to come and talk A&M football with us.
Yeah, OB in Nashville this past time. Yeah, you got approached like 3 different times by 3 different people.
Because these are people that pay our salaries indirectly, so I'm there for you.
Yeah.
Well, they just want to talk to OB. They didn't come talk to me or Richard or anything.
Funny.
It's only OB.
It's funny because we were in which game was it? We were in Atlanta. And we're on that tram that takes you from the airport to the rental car.
Are you talking about the guys from Miami?
I'm talking. I guess maybe it was that. Maybe it wasn't Atlanta. I don't know. But anyway,
no. But I think it was Miami. But go ahead.
So there's this Hispanic gentleman. And he's kind of looking over at us, and he approaches and says, "Are you TexAgs?" And I don't mean to be this way, thinking that because I get used to people coming up and talking to us. And I said, "Yeah," and he's Hispanic. He goes, "David Nuño." We come into a conversation in Spanish.
How did he say it?
"Hey, David Nuño."
Oh my God,
amigo. It was.
I remember it differently. I remember him being like this. Oh, David Nuño. That's how I remember it.
He was speaking the King's English.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a great.
I remember that, and I think their wives were there. It was not a big group, but it was a group of couples.
I thought it was just 2 guys.
Maybe I
from
just
Austin.
maybe I'm making a story up.
Anyway,
it was a good time.
I like that. We like for people to approach us and talk.
You like for people to approach.
You don't like it?
No, I like it, but I never, because one time I thought somebody recognized me from TV back in my TV days, and it was just somebody who knew me from elementary school. Do you watch on Channel 13? No, I just went to elementary school with. Oh, hey, yeah. So now I'm like, I don't know. How do I know you? What about that look from across the way where you think you know somebody but you're not sure, and then you're like,
that's why I put on the TexAgs thing, and so people can. Hey, if you're, what do I always say? We love our TexAgers. Mm-hmm. So if you want, but today.
So what he's saying is, if you're coming to town for a football game and you need a place to stay.
We've done that before.
I know. I was actually kidding, but I forgot. That's true. It's a true story.
We did. Guy from Tennessee couldn't find a place to stay. So I stay at my house.
How much did you charge him?
I didn't charge him at all.
What? Sleep with a gun on your side?
No. Good old guy from East Tennessee.
You don't have to worry about that. All right. So I started with this. We're 6 minutes in. I started with an idea. No, it's good. Don't you think it's like, not only is it a bizarre world of college football, like Texas is in the SEC now. Oklahoma is in the SEC. USC's in the Big Ten. Nick Saban is no longer around. Like, there's all these things that are happening. The college football playoffs is now how many teams? 12? So, it's completely different world, right?
Yeah.
And with all the changes that most rosters have, it is almost impossible to pick wins for a team.
It's difficult.
And to be accurate, I should say.
Especially because there's still going to be another transfer portal. So everybody's roster is going to get shaken. Or not everybody. A lot of rosters are going to get shaken up again after the spring football. So, yeah, to your point, it's very difficult.
Now, I think you can.
So I would not be in Vegas betting the under or overs yet.
You can bet on brand, right?
Yeah.
But what brand do you believe in this year in college football outside of Kirby Smart?
Ohio State.
Okay. Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, they look completely different. New coach, new players, different team. Texas looks pretty good based on what they did in the Big 12, but they're entering the SEC.
Yeah. And they're losing a lot on defense.
Okay.
No one ever talks about what they're losing on defense. And what, both their receivers? I'm sure they got good receivers, but they're losing a lot on defense. And
Ole Miss might be, outside of Georgia, your next favorite in the SEC. Might be.
Yeah.
I'm just looking around, like the brand, like the only brand that is staying the same to me is Georgia, because Georgia, Brock Bowers gone, and we'll see how that affects them, and they always have guys going to the NFL. But that's the brand that I feel.
McConkey too, right?
That's right. But that brand I feel the best about.
Yeah,
coming back.
I think if I had to bet today on the national champion, I think I'd bet Ohio State.
Okay.
I mean, look at what
Ross Bjork for year one, baby,
and all these guys that are coming in on, the running back from Ole Miss, for instance, and some other guys. And now the question I have about Ole Miss is their quarterback. I know they got the Kansas State guy, but I don't know.
So let's go through some of these win totals.
Okay, let's do it.
So the one that Matthew Dawson gave us is from On Three's Jesse Simonton, but I've seen these same numbers for A&M at other places in Vegas. FanDuel, I believe, is the one I have in front of me. A&M's win total for next year, over and under 8.5. I think that's a good number.
You know what? It should be 7.5. And if it's 7.5, I'd jump all over it. Here's the deal. I keep hearing people talk about A&M's schedule not being that strong.
I think it's strong.
And I'm like, well, you got Notre Dame. They're going to be a top 10 team. Missouri's going to be ranked.
Top 10 team.
I don't know if they're top 10, but they're
right now
ranked.
I'm going to call them top 10 just to make me feel better.
You know, LSU.
Everybody's high on LSU. I'm not as high, but they're a brand.
Texas. So you're going to tell me, you got Notre Dame, you got Missouri, you got LSU, you got Texas. Oh, what? And by the way, some of the teams that you're just supposed to beat, you got to go on the road to play Florida, right? Yep. You got to go on the road to play Auburn. That's supposed to be better. We'll see. Hey, you got to go play New Mexico State, who beat Auburn.
This is true. This is true.
So I look at that and I see 8 wins that I feel good about. So if it was 7.5, I'd say, yeah, definitely.
When you say you feel good about 8 wins,
I think as of today.
Right.
You should win 8 of those games without question.
But if a year from today, if I told you, yep, A&M, year 1 of Elko won 8 games, would that be today? How do you think you'd feel a year from now? Underwhelmed.
Yeah, probably. A lot of it depends on how it looks.
Sure.
Right? Sometimes you get screwed over. Clemson, right? A couple of Alabama games. But I would hope, I would shoot for at least 9. I think they should always expect 10. But you're in a first year with a new coach, having to make it, make the bed, if you will.
Do you feel good with your running backs?
I feel good.
Yeah,
I do. I feel good. I don't feel great, but I think there's potential for greatness there.
Do you feel good with your offensive line?
No.
Okay. Do you feel good with your tight ends?
Yes. With
Donovan Green coming back.
Donovan coming back.
And by the way, great can be an answer too. So we'll get. Do you feel good about your quarterback room?
I feel excellent.
Excellent. Do you feel good about your wide receivers?
I feel good.
Okay. What am I missing on offense?
I think you covered
it. Okay. Do you feel good about your defensive line?
Feel great.
Do you feel good about your linebackers?
Feel good.
Do you feel good about your cornerbacks?
I don't.
Okay.
There's reasons to feel good, but
you're not yet.
Missouri, right? Show me.
But
after last year,
do you feel better?
I feel better.
Okay. Safety.
Oh, I feel great at safety.
Okay. So that sounds like, by the way, as of today, that sounds like an 8-4 team. If it's good, not so good. Yes. One great, right? There was one great. That was defensive line.
Quarterback. I feel great about quarterback.
Okay, you feel great.
I said excellent, but that means great.
Yeah.
I feel great about the
safeties.
safeties.
Well, if you feel great at quarterback, then yeah.
I feel great about the safeties. Now, I think Connor Wigman is a star in the making as long as he stays healthy.
Yep.
But I'm always projecting that this is based on guys being able to play the whole year.
Let me give you the win totals for the rest of the SEC. Alabama 9.5.
Okay.
Believe that number?
Yeah. What would you take? The over or under? Now it's not fair.
I don't know.
Because do you know the Alabama schedule by heart? No. I know they play Georgia.
Yeah.
And I think they have a non-conference game that's pretty difficult.
So they won how many this year? 11?
That sounds right.
But again, look, I think Kalen DeBoer is awesome.
I think they go to Wisconsin second week.
Yeah, that's a win.
So I don't know. I sure, as of today, because of who they've been,
I would probably. But they've had so much turnover.
They have. It's impossible to tell. Arkansas 5.5.
I'd have to look at their schedule, but on the just top of my head, I'd probably take under.
I would too. I mean, KJ Jefferson's not there to save them, right? Auburn 6.5. I think that's a good number.
I think they're going to be back to being our Kansas.
Our Kansas?
Except Kansas is now pretty good, isn't it? So it doesn't work. Okay, who's next?
So Florida and Auburn are both 6.5, 5.5.
Auburn, I would probably be inclined to go over. Same thing, they win 7.
But not too much over.
No,
7.
7.
Yeah.
And Florida, I would be inclined to take the under.
I haven't seen their schedule, but I'm assuming they have at least 3 or 4 cupcakes.
I'm assuming, but who else are they going to beat?
Yeah. Kentucky 6.5. Don't know.
Hey, they'll get to 7. That's what they do.
LSU 9.5. Probably a great number.
I'd have to look at their schedule. I think it's funny. There's so many out there that say, "Oh, Garrett Nussmeier is going to be. He's just as good as, or almost as good as Jaden Daniels." I'm like, he did it against Wisconsin, which was awful, god awful last year.
Yep.
And then before that, he threw the ball really well against Georgia, but it was after Georgia had like a 28-point lead, and they were
right.
It wasn't the same Georgia. I think Nussmeier has a whole lot to prove. Plus, they got to rebuild that defense. It's not that good.
Mississippi State, okay, 4.5 wins.
I'm going to take over.
I am too.
Just because
change of coach.
Change
got to be better.
You can't be worse than Zach Arnett. What a buffoon that guy was.
Show me 9.5.
I'm going to take the under on that.
Okay. I think I don't know.
But they've got some really good defensive guys that they've lost.
But they've added some people on offense.
Yeah, okay, but you've got to play both sides of it, and their defensive coordinator is now down at Baton Rouge.
This number surprised me because I would have thought that would have been inflated. Oklahoma 6.5.
I'd have to look at their schedule.
Yeah.
And now there's all this excitement. What's the kid's name? Arnold?
Yeah, Jackson Arnold.
Jackson Arnold. Now, I'm sure by mid-September, Derek Nola is going to be saying Jackson Arnold's a Heisman contender.
Right.
But if the guy they had, what was Taylor Gabriel or whatever, what was his name?
Dylan Gabriel.
Dylan Gabriel. If the guy that they was always pumping up and no longer there, then why do we think the next guy is going to be as good or better if you're always pumping up the other guy?
Ole Miss, 9.5, I'm taking the over.
Yeah, I'll take the over.
South Carolina, 5.5.
I'd have to look at the schedule.
I don't know.
But off the top of my head, without looking at the schedule, I think I might be inclined to take the under.
The under? Okay. I think I would take the over.
Okay.
Tennessee, 8.5.
Again, let me look at the schedule, but it kills me that they weren't that good last year, and A&M let them off the hook.
Away. Let it go away.
But I would incline to think 8 wins would be what Tennessee would get, so I'd take.
Simonton has NA for Texas's win total. I would assume in the 9.5 range as well.
Probably.
We already did A&M. And Vandy, who cares? 2.5. Don't care.
I have to look at their schedule.
According to JW, Florida has a vicious schedule.
Yeah, they do.
The end of Napier.
Probably.
Here's my thing. When you pretty much know it's going to be the end, you should probably do it now and not later.
Here's the thing that Napier has going for him is he got the kid from Texas to go play quarterback for him.
Yep.
God, why am I blanking on his name? Because I was so angry that A&M Jimbo didn't really recruit him.
Which kid again?
He's from Willis. What you talking about,
DJ
Willis?
Lagway?
Oh.
Lagway.
They recruited him. But not well.
Everything I heard was they tried to get in late.
Yeah.
When I saw DJ Lagway celebrating and have the best time of his life on Kyle Field that night. A&M beat Alabama, and I remember thinking, this guy's coming to A&M. And I think if they would have recruited him the right way, he probably would have. But that's beside the point. Point is, there may be those that realize, hey, you know what? Florida does have a massively difficult schedule, so we can't expect too much this year. But Napier brought in this quarterback, and he's going to change things for us. And let's not do anything to make this quarterback leave, like change coaches. I'm not just saying that may be the only thing he has going for him. Let's
do this. Let's hit a break. We'll come back. We will check around the room. We'll open up the phone lines. If you want to call us up, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us, I should say. You can communicate with us multiple ways. You can call us up on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Call us at 979-693-1150. We had a call yesterday. I mean, we don't do a lot of calls.
Two.
You're right. We had to. We probably had more, but we had to tell somebody to call back. You know what? If you have a thought, call us. You can go over the win total with us. What do you think? Are we crazy for what we think? Aggie basketball, huge game this weekend. Obviously, A&M baseball getting started. So you can do that by calling us or texting us at 979-693-1150. Right now, if you're sick and tired of achy joints and you dread the idea of surgery, you should call QC Kinetics, and they'll make you feel better. Not the phone call itself, but the visit will. The state of healthcare is always changing. The old ideas like steroids and surgery are no longer your only options. There are different options that you can talk through when you go to QC Kinetics because they're transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. If you have knee pain, if you've got back pain, if you've got shoulder pain, if you've got pain from arthritis or an injury that's bothering you, don't let that pain keep you from living the best life that you need to be living. QC Kinetics uses state-of-the-art treatments to harness and direct your body's natural ability to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue. A revolutionary approach to get you long-term relief with no downtime. Make 2024 the year you reclaim your mobility and get your independence back. Walk, run, play, live without any danger of trauma or surgery and without the harmful drugs out there. Call QC Kinetics right now for a free consultation. 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. And we're back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. We got some bills we have to pay. We got to say hi to the people, but I do want to read this message from the Sandman on YouTube. He says, and he's a Texas fan, by the way. Very nice guy who listens.
Thought maybe Virginia Tech. Big boy.
No, he is a Texas fan. He goes, I'd be disappointed if A&M didn't win 10 games. I think it's a very manageable schedule. And by manageable, I look at, you get a lot of those games at home. From that part of it, I understand manageable. But as we discussed in the last segment, at least 3, potentially 4 top 10 teams on your schedule as of today.
Oh, well, I'm not conceding anything.
No. But do you agree, though? Like, Missouri could be. They finished number 8 last year. Okay. Texas is probably going to be top 10 team.
Right.
Notre Dame always gets the love of a top 10 team.
They're going to enter the season top 10.
And LSU.
Right.
Okay. You look at Texas's schedule, right? To me, I know they got Michigan on their schedule.
It's not the same Michigan.
It's not the Michigan. No. Right. And outside of Michigan, Georgia. Okay.
I'll take Georgia.
Right. But it is in Austin. Right. And outside of that, A&M is maybe their hardest team as of today on their schedule. A&M has a manageable schedule because it's at home. But if Notre Dame does what they've done recently is they get hot for a little bit and then they drop off.
Yeah, I don't know what Notre Dame is, to be honest.
Me neither.
Because they're always overvalued by the national media.
Always. As at times we have been as well.
Oh, yeah, very frequently. But for different reasons.
And Texas is overvalued. Last year they lived up to it.
A&M was overvalued because you could look at their roster and say, this is a team that's going to win 10 games minimum.
Yeah.
And then you coached your way out of that. Notre Dame is just every year it's, Texas is back because they beat a bad Notre Dame team, right? And that goes on and on and on for years about Notre Dame.
So here's what he says. The reasons he believes it: A&M's roster still talented, toughest opponents all at Kyle Field, returning quarterback who's a proven playmaker leader, 4, seemingly competent head coach, 5, quality portal acquisitions. Let's take those in parts because I agree with all the thinking, but we don't know A&M's roster versus talent. We think the talent that they brought in on the transfer portal, we think it's pretty elite.
Yeah.
We think. Okay.
The top level guys.
Right? Top level,
Scorton, the blanket.
Top opponents at Kyle Field, 100%. A lot of opponents coming to Kyle Field that are top, but at Kyle Field. Okay.
I saw him lose to Appalachian State here, so.
Quarterback who's a proven playmaker, absolutely, with 8 career starts.
I have no.
Is that right? 8 career? Am I right about that?
I'm all on board with Connor Wickman.
Right? But 8 starts.
Yeah.
We're pretty sure we need to see it for a full year.
Yes.
Okay. Seemingly competent head coach. Yes. So far, seems that way.
Yeah. What he did at Duke, competent, I think, is the floor for Mike Elko.
Right. So agree with everything you're saying, but there's nothing. And the big thing that you didn't list there, to me, that answers everything, is the what?
Offensive line.
Thank you. Once that's taken care of, all good.
Like I said last week, and we talked about, you tell me right now that the offensive line is going to be good and the cornerbacks are going to be able to cover, and I'll expect 10 wins.
If you have a really not great, good offensive line, and a really good group of cornerbacks, they don't have to be great. I'm not talking about like, oh man, the old school LSU, University of Miami, like pretty good.
Yeah,
good.
A guy like
not where they look on the film and like we're just going to throw on this kid all day,
like Alabama did.
Then yeah, I think 10 wins is. But until those questions are answered, I can't go all in.
Yeah, when you have cornerbacks that make Jalen Milroe look like John Unitas,
right?
Blast from the past there. Milroe's a good quarterback, but he's not a great passer.
Right.
He's a good passer, but he looked great. He had a golden arm. Because A&M's corners just were overmatched.
Yep. All right, let's go around the room and say hello to the people. We go behind the glass, and there's a gentleman working there by the name of Nicholas Savage. Nick, good morning. Howdy, hello.
Howdy, good morning, y'all. Yeah, I've already talked a couple times out of turn, so I'll keep it brief because I know y'all got a lot to get to, but obviously opening day, a lot of people's favorite time of the year. I'm one of them. Love me some baseball, some Aggie baseball especially, and I was diving into the preview series we have on TexAgs.com to go check it out where Brauny, Richard, Scott gave their predictions. And needless to say, there's a lot to be excited about this year. I think this Aggie baseball team is going to be really good, and we'll see. We'll find out tonight.
You know what you're not going to see?
What's that?
In this A&M baseball season this year?
The most walks ever?
You're not, well, that too. But you're not going to see an opponent like storm the field to get into like a bench clearing brawl. These guys are enormous.
Yeah, they're big dudes.
Lavallette's not even the biggest guy on the team. He's what, 6'6", about 240, 230. They got a relief pitcher that's 6'8", 280.
Yeah.
They got this new first baseman who's 6'6", about 230. These guys are huge.
You heard Brauny say enough about Grahovic, who's 18, and he's built like a linebacker. So,
and Targott, I mean, they're going to hit a lot of home runs.
The question with them is like the same. We have a question about A&M's offensive line football.
Pitching.
Pitching is the question.
That's why Wiener's here.
Can they be good enough?
Maybe they can be really good.
If they're really good, vamos a Omaha now.
Yeah.
You know what I just said?
Yeah, let's go to Omaha now.
Yeah. I don't know. I had more of an accent there.
Yeah, I want to go to Omaha. I want to see that guy come up. Hey, Nuño, amigo.
Let's go, homie.
Let's go, Omaha.
You're lucky I'm on the show with you because if it was your old co-host, I think people come after you.
My wife will.
Oh yeah. You're in the
my
family.
wife with the knife.
Hey, Olin, how you doing, Holmes?
Just go to sleep.
Oh wow. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, Jackson Moss. Hey, Jackson, how you doing?
I'm going to go ahead and not answer back like that.
Come on, just try it. Just try it and see what it sounds like. Come on, do it.
I'm doing good, Holmes.
I like it.
Oh, we should do a whole hour like that and get fired. Go ahead.
So it is a great day. You guys kind of talked about it. Aggie baseball's back. We're ranked number 7. We play McNeese tonight to kick off the season. And while we're talking about baseball, Texas A&M relief pitcher Evan Oschenbeck has been named to the preseason watch list for the 19th annual NCBWA Stopper of the Year Award, which is given to the top relief pitcher in NCAA D1 baseball. What
is about Brenham and baseball players, man? Isn't Evan from Brenham?
Yeah.
I think, man, they just turn out baseball players, and he's good. He was one of the few bright spots of that pitching staff last year.
He was awesome.
He was
fantastic. What else, buddy?
So Aggie softball is also back in the swing of things. No.
Look at you, just did an OB. Did you see what he did there? He
I
did like
OB
a
would
look.
appreciate it.
There was a delay. Like, did you get my joke?
Did you get that?
Yeah. Did
I was
you get
waiting
that?
on it. Yeah. Anyways, they play number 14 Oregon today at noon in the Campbell Cartier Classic. Following that game, they will also play San Diego State and LMU later in the weekend. The number 12 Texas A&M men's tennis team is set to compete against number 4 South Carolina to kick off the ITA National Indoor Championships today at 11 a.m. And I had to mention it because history was made. It's not really Aggie sports, but Caitlin Clark sets an NCAA women's basketball scoring record with her 3,528th career point after dropping 49 against Michigan, which, by the way, 49 is the same score that Vanderbilt beat us by last night. But
why do you got to bring it up like that?
I know. I had to. But
can I make a comment that has nothing to do with sports at the moment?
Go for it.
Jackson has become I'm a workout guy. You know what I mean by that?
Well, he's a big old guy.
He's a big dude. He could lift more than I can. There's no doubt. But he carries a gallon of water everywhere he goes, and that's to me the international sign. I work out. I just want you to know that I work out. It's like tight shirts. It's the same thing.
Or I have a problem with kidney stones.
That's true.
No, so
Look, either way, let me defend myself here really quick.
I'm just saying you're letting the world know.
No, because your argument here is that there's backwash in a gallon jug as opposed to your water bottles. If you backwash, that sounds like a personal problem. I don't backwash personally.
My opinion.
I wash my back every day.
I believe if you drink out of a gallon of milk, water, whatever, right? There's backwash accumulating throughout the day. That is you're just recycling it and drinking it over and over. That's
Maybe you're adding some flavor.
That's not the flavor I want. And I think I'd rather just have a new cold water as opposed to that lukewarm water throughout the day, and walk around and show people, look how much water I drink. I'm a workout guy.
It's a common mindset. It's okay. You wouldn't understand. It's all right.
Sorry.
But finally, the number 2.
This guy doesn't realize I can push the button. He's off forever.
The number 2 Texas A&M equestrian team hits the road for the first time this spring as they travel to face number 5 Georgia on Saturday at the UGA Equestrian Complex at 11 a.m. The Aggies are looking to stay perfect in conference competition and also to win a program best 4th straight meet against the Bulldogs.
Good stuff there. Let's hit a break. We'll come back. We need to read some text messages, and we still got to do 3 things we want to see this weekend. We've pushed it back. We've had some good dialogue
It's been fun.
It has been a good one. Right now, we're talking Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. Go there. You can go to the website and go in person. You can do both, right? Both are a great way to start your car search. When you're looking for a car, you got a lot of questions like how much can we afford? What do we really need for our family? What are the reasons you're getting a new car? You got an old one that you just need to trade up and get a better one. Your family's expanding. They'll help you out through the entire process when you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They have great deals that start on their website. When you go in person, you're going to be blown away by the customer service experience and, of course, the cars that they have on their lot. Also, great trade-in value. So you put that whole package together and you got yourself a great car that you're getting from Caldwell Country Chevrolet. And as a reminder, they do have complimentary pickup for their service customers. 15-minute drive, Bryan to Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They are on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. The Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon never looked so good with Maroon U. I'm David Nuño. He's Olin Buchanan. OB, we got to pay some bills. We have not done 3 things that we want to see. Brought to you by the Brazos Running Company, because we're running our mouths. They are your Aggie-owned specialty running store where you can find Brooks on Hoka shoes, located at Century Square below the Star Cinema Grill in College Station. OB, what are 3 things that you would like to see, sir?
I want to see the Aggies get back to what they do that makes them really successful.
Yep.
So I want to see them offensive rebound. I want to see them play a really, really tight defense. I mean, the defense let them down, especially in the second half against Vanderbilt. So I want to see them come out and play really strong defense. And then from that Vanderbilt game, I want to see them shoot like they shot against Vanderbilt.
Yep.
I mean, they're shooting well. They were 18 of 18 at the free throw line.
That's back to that's last season kind of love. Yeah.
So the shooting, whether it be at 3-point range or the free throw line, I hope that continues. But you got to play better defense. You got offensive. I need to throw in a 4th one, is that get back to protecting the ball.
Yep.
That's double-digit turnovers is just not a good recipe for you.
So it looks like you copied off my notes. Just kidding. Get back to what you do. Yeah. What do? You offensive rebound well. You don't turn the ball over a bunch. Get to the line, right? Get back to what you do. Mm-hmm. Number 2 thing I want to see this weekend. I want boots for 20+. Why is that such an important number for us, OB?
Because they are
10-1.
Is it 11-1?
Might be 11-1 now.
It's either 11-1 or 12-1 now, but I think it's 11-1.
Okay.
When Boots scores 20 points or more.
Yep. So can we get Boots to score 20+ or more? And the third one is, tell me if you follow my thinking here.
Are you saying if Boots gets 20 points, you're a shoe-in?
I like the way you said that. I like the way
you
looked
Jackson might like that, but he didn't even respond.
He didn't
okay.
look. He was
all right, and then number 3 on
He's
your...
playing Candy Crush, drinking water from a jug. This one is a baseball one. All right, and tell me if I'm asking for too much this weekend. I would like an offensive explosion, but with pitching that would win regardless of what the offense does.
Yeah.
Is that asking for too much this weekend against McNeese?
Well, especially not against McNeese. I mean, the best player ever come out of McNeese was Ryan Brauninger, so that tells you everything you need to know.
Wow, yeah. Then, I think they're going to win 100-0.
So, do you see that picture somebody put of Ryan Brauninger?
I saw that picture. It was a good pic.
He hadn't changed a whole lot, has he?
No, I mean, well, he's
maybe gotten a little bit bigger, but other than that. But, yeah, I think you're going to see better pitching, but we won't know how to interpret that.
We don't need to know yet, but let's start off.
It's kind of like if you go out and lose to Appalachian State in football. If you beat them, if you play well against Appalachian State and win, it doesn't tell you much.
Yep.
But if you don't and you lose, meaning if you don't pitch well against McNeese, then it raises serious red flags.
In 2022, what was A&M football's worst loss? Appalachian State, right?
I would say probably.
And in basketball, their worst loss was
Wofford,
right? Their best wins were
in
either one.
Well,
football
LSU,
would have been LSU. In basketball, Tennessee,
Alabama,
right?
Alabama was ranked 2nd.
Okay. This year, basketball, their worst loss was is it Vandy? Is it Arkansas? So. Vandy, one of those two?
I think Vandy was worse than Arkansas. But there is weird things that happen at that
Their best wins, though, Kentucky and Tennessee.
Yeah. It's the pendulum just swings so
way too
crazy.
Much, man. Let's go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Jackson, I know we got some text messages.
Yeah, so we were talking about the Brenham baseball products.
Right.
Opening day for TexAgs and Taylor says, opening day for Aggie baseball. In my mind, spring has now sprung and time to avenge 89. FYI, Cecile Cooper is from
Cecil,
Brenham. Cecil Cooper is from Brenham, and that's where it started for them.
Yeah, big old... did he play for the Milwaukee Brewers?
He did.
Big, heavy-hitting first baseman.
And he was also manager of the Astros for a little bit.
Is that right? I didn't realize that.
Cecil Cooper. I'm trying to think what year that was.
If I'm not mistaken, I think you can go all the way back to, and I might be wrong on this, but a former Astros shortstop, Roger Metzger, wasn't he from Brenham? Maybe I'm wrong on that.
That might be right.
But they've had a lot of good baseball players. And then there was a kid that pitched here. And I can't, that was on the cover of Sports Illustrated as a Brenham Cub, setting the national record for high school wins. I've already forgotten his name. Somebody's yelling at their TV or their radio
back in
right
the
now.
80s?
Yeah, about then. Somebody's yelling. Huh? No. Somebody's yelling at their radio saying his name. Was it Peters? Was that his name? I can't think, but
we'll get it.
Yeah.
What else, Jackson?
So Wicks on Ag says, can our Jekyll and Hyde performances in basketball be chalked up entirely to we are not a good shooting team? Bad shooting teams get hot, and we have games where we heat up, but at the end of the day, we just flat can't shoot and rely on Wade and Boots playing above their head.
But that wasn't the issue against Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt,
they
shot well.
Really well. So I do think they have, for whatever reason, issues on the road.
They do. Jackson, any others?
That's about it right now.
All right, good stuff there. Bottom line is,
was it John Peters? Was that his name?
Might have been.
Rick Riley did a big front page story on him.
You can Google it. Jackson, Google it. So as we close up this segment, OB, the bottom line when it comes to basketball is you're going to win way more games when you play your game. You dictate the tempo. And I know this team took offense to what happened at Vanderbilt just because I understand the DNA. I understand the way Buzz coaches. I understand the players that they have out there. I think kind of like what we saw in the Auburn game, you're going to see a way different A&M team versus Alabama this weekend. That does not necessarily mean they go to Alabama and win, and I hope that they do. But I don't think we're going to see that kind of performance against Alabama. I think you will see more of what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope they just play. You know what?
John Peters, you're right, correct.
Okay, so it took a while, but the memory kicked in. The Prevision. I think that first of all, it's going to be hard to get a ton of offensive rebounds against a good rebounding opponent. I think Alabama is, and they're athletic. Alabama is so, but that's what you do. When they've been successful, they've been able to get more shots than their opponent. They've been able to offensive rebound. They've been able to keep turnovers at a low total, and they typically played good defense. And they didn't do that against Vanderbilt. And I don't know if it was because it was the proverbial trap game. And I don't want to say they were still celebrating Tennessee, but you put so much into it. Isn't it hard to always be at that same peak level?
Yep.
Game after game. And it is. It's difficult to maintain that.
We'll set a break here. Obi, help me out with this spot for a moment.
Okay.
Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, you were chatting with a gentleman who was like, man, that Nuño, he talks fast. I'm trying to understand, ascend concrete lifting and support. Well, so I'm going to slow it down. Tell me if it's good. Ready?
Okay.
979.
979.
933.
933.
85.
85.
27.
27.
Don't replace it. Lift it.
Okay.
Say it.
Don't replace it. Lift it.
That's ascend concrete lifting and support.
That's ascend.
Ascend. I got to slow it down.
Yeah.
And I'm not meaning it as a joke. I'm being serious because I have a little Jimbo in me. When I get going on a spot and the coffee starts flowing, I start talking and I pick it up. So I am now going to take a step back and let everybody know about Ascend Concrete Lifting and Support. They'll take care of you no matter what your concrete situation is, at your home, at your business, on the roads. Don't replace it, lift it. That's what they do. So if you have a bad driveway, a patio, a sidewalk situation, your factory floors are all jacked up and they're kind of lifted, what they'll do is they'll lift the whole thing and put it together and make it seamless to the eye. So when you leave the house in the morning for work, you drive back, taken care of.
So if you have foundation issues, could they come in and deal with that?
Well, I don't know if that's what it says in the spot. Okay, I don't know, but they will fix it. Maybe.
Yeah.
If not, they'll call the right person for you.
Okay.
But I know they'll lift your concrete situation and take care of it. So driveways, right? You know, like sometimes when you get out of the driveway and you kind of trip on it all the time.
Absolutely.
You got old folks. You don't want them to fall.
I don't want to fall.
You're part of the community. You don't want to fall in the old folks' place, right?
No, I'm going to be living there soon.
I got to stop doing the old jokes with you.
I don't care.
I'm old. But what you need to do is call them up. 979-933-8527. 979-933-8527. Don't replace it.
Lift it with ascend. Ascend.
Don't replace it what?
Lift it.
Don't replace it what?
Lift it.
Don't replace it what?
Lift it.
Thank you. We'll be back. And we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio Go. Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Kay Naegeli is with us. But before we do Around Aggieland, we got to bank on something not prevented by Vera Bank. Authentic relationship-based banking built for real life. Go see Joel Jackson and the team. Learn more. VeraBank.com. What are you banking on?
Sweep to start the baseball season. And from what Brauninger told me, I'm going to bank on no fewer than 5 home runs this weekend.
Okay.
Brauninger tells me they're going to be bringing out the lumber.
I'm banking
They'll
on
be lumbering around the bases.
A second straight game of all 3 Aggie big 3 in double figures. Okay. If we can get the numbers for Boots where I asked for in the last segment, then I think that means a victory. All right. But I think all 3 will be in double figures.
The big 3 being?
Henry Coleman.
Okay.
Wade Taylor.
Boots
Radford. I got to talk about Richard Zane later.
Oh, Lord.
You hear about that? I accidentally took his keys and left.
Oh, no.
I think he put them here, and that's my area, and I took him.
Like you left the office.
Oh, I was gone. Thank God I didn't go to Houston. He would have been screwed.
Yikes.
Naegeli, let's do Around Aggieland, which is presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website, normandystatebank.com.
So, before we do that, I have a little surprise. It's something I've been trying to add personality to the back room, and I would like to show everybody this little sign I have created.
David Nuño's victims.
So, if anybody is unaware, David Nuño likes to challenge a lot of people in this office
No,
they challenge you to games of basketball, pickup basketball, and I made a sign that of his victims. This is Nick. The printer kind of messed up his look. I think he looks evil.
He looks.
He was beat 11-0, and then Cade. They also have X's through their eyes. 11-5. So if anyone wants to end up on the victim board,
From what I've been told, Luke would beat me. Is what I've been told.
Well, I don't know about that. Hopefully, Luke's face will go next.
I hope so.
Maybe OB.
No, I mean OB wouldn't last a minute.
We could get.
Oh please.
This is going to be behind Nick's desk.
Hey, but I have to Cade is a better basketball player than me. Nick is not. Sorry, Nick, you're not. We know it. It's cool. Fist pound. Cade is better than I am.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to take the David Nuño approach and predict I could beat anybody 20 years older than me. So that's what David does.
That's not the David.
David says, hey, OB.
No. That's not the David Nuño approach. Would be you would beat people 20 years younger than you.
Well, you just said you'd beat me.
He just bullies them up
But I just beat the kids, too. I beat them all.
Now, I know this.
Shield's right.
You're not going to, if we played, and we're not going to because I'd pull a hamstring, but if we did, you would not just be able to muscle inside on me. I could push back more than those two puny guys.
Okay, let's do it.
I'll push back.
Oh, you could push back.
We'll live stream it, everybody.
But with you, I wouldn't have to. I would just drive on you. You wouldn't stop that ever. With a bat. Sorry, Kay.
I think I'd get some block shots over this Smurf over here.
I mean, no disrespect. You will have a torn labrum in the second play of the game.
I do.
When you try to foul me and I go through it with the gun show, it'd be over.
I actually.
Pardon.
I actually did mean some disrespect.
We'll live stream this for everybody to see. So. What if you did?
What are we going to play on 6-foot goals?
Put it on the poster.
4-foot goals.
You gotta lower it a little bit.
We gotta pay the.
Speaking of basketball, let's stay on the hoops frame. So Aggie men's basketball has had a great week and also a pretty terrible week on both ends, taking down number 6 Tennessee and then falling to Vanderbilt on Thursday. So hopefully they look to get back on track against number 15 Alabama, and hopefully our little buzz shrine in the back can stay up. If y'all know anything about that, that has been debating on coming down or not, so hopefully it can stay up. Unfortunately, on the other basketball end, the women, Vanderbilt scored 10 unanswered to upend Texas A&M on Thursday night. It was a rough one offensively. India Rogers did not receive minutes after going down against Kentucky in the previous game. Looked like a lower leg injury. Aisha Coulibaly did step up. She had 20 points, especially in the second half. She was awesome, found a way to get in the paint, but the Aggies are now 17-7 on the regular season and 5-6 in SEC play, and only 5 regular season games remain for them. And LSU is next up on Monday at home. Y'all have talked about it a little bit, but baseball is back. Jim Schlossnagle will begin his 3rd season in Aggieland tonight against the Fighting Ryan Brauningers, McNeese State. Tonight's game is 6 p.m., Saturday is 2 p.m., and Sunday is 1 p.m. And then softball will travel west to compete in the Campbell Cartier Classic beginning today at noon against number 14 Oregon. So they have a actually challenging one on the schedule, so hopefully we can get some wins this weekend.
Awesome stuff, Kay. Appreciate you. So here's what our number 2 is going to look like. Mark French talking basketball. then the baseball roundtable. Our baseball bunch guys will be here for half an hour. And then I expect Billy Liucci, but I haven't heard from Billy Liucci. I know he had a birthday yesterday. I hope he shows up. If not, it'll be a lot of tap dancing. And, Olin, where are you? Oh, you'll be at a press conference, so you won't be able to come back. All right, that and more is TexAgs Radio. Welcome in, everybody. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is time to talk a little basketball. We got Mark French on the program on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Frenchie, I don't know if I should call you Frenchie, but it just came out. Mark, I want to be optimistic for a moment because after the Vanderbilt game, I think we all were kind of moody, right? Like, and I'm sure the players were too, coaching staff, right? But I still believe in this team. I'm not going to allow a Vanderbilt loss I'm not going to allow a Tennessee victory to make me think this team's going to go undefeated. I'm not going to allow the Vanderbilt loss to make me think this team is not going to the tournament. But there is something about the highs and lows of this team that do worry me, and I'm sure that coaching staff.
I don't think it's cause for a panic, and I think we should all remain calm and let the season play out. Again, it is two polar opposites, but it's really, it was a short week. So you played Saturday night, and then, Sunday you had probably a light practice, and then Monday you're traveling. So it is a traditional trap game, but I think if we could, maybe we bifurcate them and we look at one, and then we can look at the other. And so let's start glass more than half full with Tennessee, right? I mean, that was one of the most joyous games I've been able to watch, just as a fan and someone who's rooting really hard for this program and this staff. It was so fun to watch on Saturday. I had some guys over at my house, and we just, cooked food and just took it in. We watched Kansas play, and then we watched A&M obviously come on and just put on an absolute show. And I think if we could start there, let's just talk about, Wade Taylor, the brighter the lights, the better he is, right? And it was absolutely incredible to watch him come out in an attacking mode. Jace Carter's dunk, I think we'll all remember that.
Yeah.
I think that kind of is, in my mind, it was Wade being aggressive early, and then Jace's dunk that kind of symbolized that game, what we were all going to be about. And we took the fight right to them. We were the first to throw a punch. I loved everything about that game. And so I think, don't let Tuesday night take away from the fact that, this team's been deadly at home. I think it's 5 straight top 25. Hold on, I have the stat right here. So they're now 5-0 in their last 5 games versus ranked opponents at Reed Arena. So think about that for a second. For a fan base that really wants to have these big home games and wins, and honestly the crowds have been really good. 5-0 in the last 5 ranked opponents coming in to Reed Arena. I think that's pretty spectacular, and something that needs to be talked about. Those kind of points need to be talked about when the cliff jumpers are going all over the message boards after Vandy.
So I think part of the problem, Mark, and tell me if you follow me here, is that we know that A&M has been undervalued several times at the tournament, right? NIT, not the NCAA tournament 2 years ago, getting the 7 seed last year. They clearly should have been higher than that, right, based on the resume alone, and weighted more heavily on SEC for my eyes. So when you allow a game like this to tarnish your resume, you're like, here we go. If we're a bubble team, we're screwed. We'll be NIT. And I think that is part of the fear, because you also know that if they get a bad matchup at the end, or a higher ranked team in the NCAA tournament, then A&M can beat them. So you just don't want the committee to determine your future based on a couple of bad performances.
Right, and this goes back to the fan base psyche, or the group thought of the fan base, and so I get it completely. Look, here's something we're so quick to forget. This program, this staff went 15-3 last year in conference. Right, they've always closed the year down really strong. It's something we talked about last week. But 15-3 last year in conference and got a 7 seed. Now you can talk about some early losses and mishaps, whatever, but that really, by the end of the year, was a 3, 4, 5 seed that we had as a team, right? The year before, they should have been in the tournament. That was probably that 7, 8, 9 seed in my mind. 8, 9, 10 seed, whatever. Somewhere in there, right, Nuño? Mm-hmm. And so I completely understand where you're coming from. And what do they call it? Battered Aggie syndrome? Mm-hmm. BAS. I get it. But I think with this team, there's enough opportunity in front of them. So let's maybe turn our eyes forward, right? So look at I don't view what's coming up as a bad thing. I view it as an opportunity. And so you get at number 15, Alabama, there's a quad 1 opportunity. Again, we can beat any team in the country. Versus Arkansas at home, got payback game. At number 8, UT, the real one. And then versus Carolina, number 11 at home. So you have three of your next 4 games are quad 1 opportunities. Win 2 of them, and your resume is looking really good, even with the losses, because you're going to have so many quad one wins. I think we still have the most, or tied for the most quad one wins in the entire conference. So again, I guess if I could summarize in one thing and say one thing, Nuño, it'd be this: it's that no matter what the ups and downs are, what you're really after is getting hot late, and they're going to remember whatever you do in March. And so I think this team, all it takes is these guards getting on the big stage and the lights being bright, and then putting on a spectacular show, and you're going to look up and they're going to be a second weekend team they're in the Sweet 16 trying to play for an Elite Eight. So it's really not out of the realm of possibility for these guards to go win 2 games in March if they can get into the tournament.
So, Mark, let's talk about that, because we initially started with Elite Eight checkpoints. Then we were like NCAA tournament checkpoints. After the Tennessee game, we might have been talking back to, Sweet 16, Elite Eight checkpoints. But the back and forth, right? I guess that's where we are. Do you still think this team can be a second weekend team?
Yeah, I do, because I think the upside's there. Now, do I think the floor, do I think they could get beat by someone surprisingly? Sure, but I do think the ceiling is so high, especially with Jace Carter turning a corner. You're talking about a guy who, had a nice game against Tennessee, followed it up. What I was really interested to see with Jace was, would he follow that up? And so I think he has done that. And he had, 11 the other night? Yeah, he had 11 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists against Vandy. And so I think you're starting to see this roster coming to form. Henry coming off the bench, right? Solo kind of finding his groove, just playing a ton of minutes. I don't know. I'm really bullish on the upside. I think there's a lot of upside for this team. And so, sure, I think this could be a second weekend team, no doubt. But I do think, they're going to have to navigate some things.
Talking to Mark French here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Here's something that I don't think we're going to have to worry about too often, but unfortunately, we had to worry about it against Vanderbilt. When A&M doesn't play their brand of basketball, they leave themselves susceptible to lose to anyone, right? So we know they can lose to anyone, but really, had they just done what they normally – that wasn't good grammar. If they just do what they normally do, right, which is win the offensive rebounding battle, not turn the ball over a bunch, they win that game. It's that simple.
Well, what's crazy is, so we only had 8 offensive rebounds the other night, and we only out-rebounded them by 3. Normally, we out-rebound teams by like 8, 9, 10. And so here's the crazy stat. If you want to pivot from the euphoria of Tennessee to the Vandy game where we came up a little bit short, we shot 8 of 18, so 44% from 3, and we were 17 for 17 from the line, 100%. So it's so contradictory, but you can see that the recipe of offensive rebounding and low turnovers even outweighs shooting in some instances. Because they shot the ball really well, over 50% from the field, 44% from 3, 100% from the free throw line on 17 attempts. I mean, that's what some people have been clamoring for. And then, if the offensive rebounds aren't there and that stamp of this is Texas A&M basketball isn't on that game, sure, you are susceptible at times. So, anyways, I don't think we should panic. I think it is frustrating to teeter-tot back and forth, but I think some of that's just college basketball. It's the nature of the beast. And, I was thinking about it. The Sweet 16 team I was on in 18, I think we lost like 7 in a row at one point, like the open conference, and then we got hot late. But no one remembers that, right? They just remember beating North Carolina and playing Michigan. And if you beat Michigan, who knows? Maybe, Florida State, and then anyways, the mind can certainly wander, but it's all about what you do late in college basketball. And so I think this team will get hot, and I think the guard play will carry them.
Continue on with those thin margins that we're talking about. The way this team has lost, right? Like buzzer beater, a shot away from winning, U of H coming back. So many of these games, like, regardless of what you think, this team is battle-tested and probably more equipped for those games in the tournament because of what they've gone through.
They're a big game team. So let's make no mistake about it. Sure, they've had some losses, but when the lights turn on the brightest and it's a main ESPN game or it's a game that holds a lot of weight, this program shows up. And, it may not always look pretty in the first half, but by the end of the game, and this is what's going to pay off, by the end of the game, they're usually in a dogfight. And so when it comes for SEC tournament time, when it comes to March Madness time, this team's going to be they've been through so many wars, Nuño. I'm just, not even this year, but over the last 2 or 3 years, this nucleus has been through so many wars. And I think at some point there's a payout on that, right? There's a dividend that's going to be paid. And so, obviously Memphis and Houston were close losses. Even Auburn, that game was closer than it appeared. You go beat Kentucky. Your last 3 losses were all by 3 points or less, 2 of them at buzzer beaters. So, look, you're still 5-2 in your last 7. Look, we're going to be all right. I think everybody just needs to calm down a little bit.
So what does all right mean to you? Okay, like does that mean top 6 finish in the SEC? Does that mean an 8 or better seed? Like when you say we're going to be all right, what do you think that ultimately looks like?
I mean, I think this team could end up, 11-7, 10-8 in conference. Maybe, 12. I don't know. 12-6 would be tough, but again, they can beat anybody, and it kind of lightens up at the end. But you got 3 top 15 games coming up. You need to win 1 or 2 of those. But yeah, I mean, I think this team's certainly a 10-win conference team, 11-win conference team, and I think that gets them in, right? And so to me, all right means you're in the tournament no matter what happens in the SEC tournament, and so. I think they're going to be fine, and I think they're going to get in the tournament, and I think there's going to be some upside once you get there, because no one's going to want to play us. When we're juiced up for a game like we would be in March Madness, hitting the offensive board, Solo and Andy are flying around, Wade and Boots are just, killing the opposing team's guards, and then Jace is your wild card. There's not many teams that would, raise their hand and say, oh, yeah, I want to match up against them. I think it'd be quite the opposite.
Mark, I want to read this from Scar Tissue on the TexAgs chat. Need to worry about getting into the tournament before you start talking about playing the second weekend. And I think what our point more is, this team can be a second weekend team when they're at their best. Unfortunately, though, the reality is he's right. You got like the Penn State game last year, we complained about the seeding, and we didn't bring it. That particular day was a bad matchup, and we did not bring it. When I say we, Texas A&M basketball did not bring it. All being said, this team, with all the issues that they've had this year, still can be that team that we envisioned. It's just harder to envision it, for using the same term again, because of the lack of consistency.
Look, so they're 43rd in the net right now, and you're going to have some opportunities to climb, as this goes, and the Tennessee win and maybe a Bama win. If you could win one of those, another one of those 2 games, and then you get Carolina at home, which would be an absolute showdown at Reed. That net could climb up pretty quick. And so, I don't know. I think people just have such a propensity to go towards the negative, and I'm just kind of over that point. And I think there's a lot to be excited about. And you just, 2 top 6 wins at home in the last 3-4 weeks. I mean, I get the losses are frustrating, and it's, especially a road loss to a team like Vandy. But I mean, guys, there is upside here, and if you don't want to see, just like y'all are saying, I'm not looking at the negative. I'll acknowledge that there is some downside to, like, they're not always beating the teams that on paper they should. But I think there's also a propensity for the majority, if not 3/4 of the fan base, a lot of whom don't, truly know basketball as well as they maybe know football or baseball or something else, to just be a Debbie Downer. I think there's still a lot to be positive about here. And you're 15-9, you're 6-5 in conference, and you got 3 quad 1 opportunities coming up in the next 2 weeks. So let's maybe circle back on this in a week or 2 and see where we're at. But I understand there's downside, and understand that there's been some losses that are frustrating, but there's also been a lot of good.
Mark, Was there anything different they could have done on that last play? To me, the game was lost before that last play just because of the way it played out, giving them a chance to score on the last possession. But I thought defensively, like, they did everything they could. It's just tip of the cap.
No, it was fine. I mean, you got a block, and then it was a broken play, and it barely gets over Andy's fingertip, and it goes in. And that's the risk you play, on the road when you don't, close the team out. But I mean, there was nothing wrong with that last play. We examined that Arkansas play where we maybe wish there would have been a tweak or, maybe trap. I don't know. There's a couple different things. This one was not anything like that. This was kind of lucky. And, that's just kind of the gamut you run when, you let a team like Vandy hang around. So, Solo with the block. Andy almost blocked it. Kid hits a lucky deal.
So what are the keys to beating Alabama on the road? And look, they'd be in so much of a better place if they can split the next Tennessee, Alabama. I mean, I'd love to take them both, but like, what's realistic? Right. Realistic, you can beat those teams. You can lose to all these teams you're about to play as well. You've already lost to Arkansas, but what do you think the key is to going on the road and beating Bama?
I think for me, it's like, let's make it a street fight, hey man, like this team's real pretty. They're going to shoot a ton of threes. They play honestly a beautiful brand of basketball, just objectively speaking. But, are there some pretty boy aspects to what they do? And can we punch them in the mouth type thing? I'd love to kind of go in with the bully mentality and get back, especially after not hitting the offensive boards at Vanderbilt. I would love to nothing more than for a Saturday, a big SEC showdown with a lot of people watching. Let's go punk them on the boards, and then let Wade, Boots, now Jace kind of do their thing, and then let Andy and Solo kind of roam and just be difference makers in so many ways that don't show up, in all the stats. But yeah, I mean, I think the recipe is going to continue to be the same. It's offense rebounding and it's low turnovers. And then the third caveat would be make free throws like they did at Vandy, but incorporate that into into those other two. And there's probably kind of the recipe. But yeah, I'd love to see them be the bully. And like you said, if you go 2-3 against Bama, Arkansas, and Tennessee, so you get the Arkansas payback, right? And then you split Bama and UT on the road. Then you set up a big game with Carolina that can really move the needle at home.
Hey, I'm going to read this last text. Jack76, Debbie Downer Aggies when you lose a game to Vandy, who's 235 in the net, or to Arkansas. Yeah, that's not good. 4 to 5 years now. Okay, maybe I misunderstood what he was trying to say. Look, nobody's saying those games was good.
Right.
Like, we're just saying the resume is far from over, right? Far from being polished. There's still room to move up. And yeah, absolutely, there's still room to go down. But that's almost every team. If Florida, who's been hot, goes on a losing streak right now, or they lose games that they shouldn't, they'll be having the same conversation A&M is having right now.
There's no doubt. And I think my premise is like, I don't want to live my life in a miserable way. And if we can look at it glass half full, we're going to do it that way. And that's how we'll always do it as long as I'm allowed on here. And so, sure, there's a lot you could sit here and complain about and be in the dumps. But there's also, a lot of good. And I think there's merit to focusing on that and also just letting the season play out. This is, again, I always say this is 18 to 23-year-olds, Nuño, and the margins are so fragile. And sure, you don't want to lose to a team like Vandy or even Arkansas earlier in the season. But like they also have talented guys, and they're also well coached. And so, sure, we should. I think we should win those games? Absolutely. But do I also realize that this is a fragile business? Yes.
That is Mark French on the
Brian. Fair?
Yeah, that's very fair, buddy. On the Brian Foley Law hotline, good people can have a bad day. Call Brian Foley Law at 936-596-0407, serving Houston, the Woodlands, Conroe, and the Brazos Valley. Mr. French, appreciate you, sir. Talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Talk then. Let's have a great weekend.
You too, buddy. All right, when we come back here on TexAgs Radio, around the SEC, Jackson's got some stuff to get into right now. Milliken Reserve Time, farm-to-table community. They are in College Station. They got homes. They got trails. They got wide-open spaces with a mission to build a healthy community around nature, and they've done that by treading lightly on the land that you can find Milliken Reserve on. They've created a sanctuary for family, for nature, and for community. It's a place that wants you to come together with your family. So if you decide just to go hang out there, you're going to have a great time because they've got all the activities you can imagine. They also have amazing properties as well. So you don't have to live there, but if you do, you're going to be able to take advantage of it all the time. If you're in the area, just go out there for the hiking, the biking, the canoeing, the kayaking, the equestrian trails, the evening yoga, the summer camps, the music festivals, the farmer markets, the farm tours. They've got it all there at Milliken Reserve. They've got all the animals you can imagine, from the white-tailed deer to the songbirds to the rabbits to the turtles. And homeowners there at Milliken Reserve sharing a legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation, you're coming back to that pristine countryside place, a place with resources for families to come together to relax and to reflect. Learn more at millikenreserve.com. Again, that website, millikenreserve.com. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. We've got Around the SEC with Jackson Moss. Jackson.
Yeah, so actually I'm going to start with some SEC football news. Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer has retained and promoted assistants Freddie Roach and Robert Gillespie. Roach was the Crimson Tide's defensive line coach, and he has now been elevated to associate head coach. And Gillespie will remain as running backs coach with the added title of assistant head coach. And then do
you know that there's a Freddie Roach who's also a boxing coach?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, just wanted to talk about that. Go ahead.
Two of DeBoer's former Washington assistants, offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb and offensive line coach Scott Huff, left for the same jobs with the NFL Seattle Seahawks.
Yes, sir. That was one that was probably expected for a little while. Finally came through earlier in the week.
And then former Texas A&M offensive coordinator Daryl Dickey has resigned from Georgia after just one season to pursue other opportunities.
All right. We love Daryl Dickey.
And this kind of counts as SEC news, but LSU's record of 16 players being invited to the Combine in 2020 has been broken by Michigan, who had 18. And then to switch it over to baseball, in the D1 baseball preseason poll, 6 of the top 10 baseball teams are SEC teams. Number 2, Florida. Number 3, Arkansas. Number 6, Vanderbilt. Of course, number 8, Texas A&M. And number 9, Tennessee. And then while we are talking about baseball, I'm going to actually switch over to softball. And number 4, Georgia softball came back from a 4-run deficit and battled in a 10-inning marathon Thursday, beating Wisconsin 7-6. One of Georgia's outfielders, I had to mention this, by the way, has a Hall of Fame name. It is Dallas Goodnight.
His last name is Goodnight?
Yeah, her name is Dallas.
Sorry, her last name is Goodnight?
Yeah, it's Dallas Goodnight.
That's not a real name. Nobody's last name is Goodnight. Like
Hall of Fame, all name.
That's
all
not her
SEC
nickname.
Name,
that's her last name.
Yeah, Dallas Goodnight.
Is it spelled like Goodnight?
Yep, but Dallas is spelled with an I instead of an A.
Where?
Second A.
Second A.
Yeah.
Dallas.
Maybe it's Dalise. Maybe I'm just saying that wrong. This whole thing was just like completely wrong.
That's really embarrassing. You might want to.
I'm pretty sure it's Dallas. Anyways, that's besides the point. And then
nobody's last name is Goodnight, right? Like that's not real.
No,
it's real story, but like that they had to change. They moved to this country. Like I don't know. Let's just come up with.
That's how it's written in all the articles. So I don't know.
That's cool. I'm not, no disrespect, man. I just didn't think that was a real last name. Hey, let's do this. Let's for a moment before we go to the baseball bunch. Kind of put a. I think I understand everybody's frustration with Aggie basketball. Well, there's an obvious frustration. But I also understand like the two camps that are out there, and it's okay to be in the middle. Two camps are like, hey, Mark French, right? Water half full, the glass is half full. The other side is, but who cares, man? This team ain't going to do yada, 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 right? I understand that. The reality is we're in the middle of a season and in the middle of SEC play, and there's so much yet to develop for this team. If you use that methodology back in 21, you would have never been able to experience the 8-game win streak and the fun run that it was during the NIT tournament, right? That was a fun story. The story is not done. And the reason I'm bringing it up here is big victory over Tennessee, bad loss to Vandy. But if they take care of business against Bama, play the game for a moment, they beat Alabama on the road, not all is forgotten, but like you're like, all right, look, it ain't great that they lost to Vandy, but look at this team. And especially if you look at the way this team has lost and the amount of points that they've lost by their last couple games has been by 5 points combined. So the bottom line, very prominent early rancher in Texas is good night. Okay, thank you, 254. Appreciate that. I did not know that. So I didn't mean any disrespect. I didn't know. Back to it. The story is so far from being done that let's let it play out. Understand where this team has limitations, right? At times, they're not a great free throw shooting team. At times, they become one-dimensional offensively, and it hurts them. But at times, they beat the number 6 team in the country twice, right? So the highs and lows are real far apart, and that could cause a problem for a deep run in the NCAA tournament. But let's be honest. Get to the tournament, get a win. I think we're talking about a successful season. Long way to go for that. They got to finish out this season. They got to do pretty well in the SEC tournament and then hope that they get a nice seed. But all those things are still in the mix. It's just not the elite year that we were expecting. But the elite finish is what we'll be talking about if they have that. All right, we're going to talk Heritage Films for a moment. That's the other thing OB was talking to me about. He met somebody, I think yesterday it was, that heard the commercial, and a friend of theirs heard the commercial and suggested that their family get the Heritage Film done, and they loved it. It's such a cool thing to do. I talk about it as, sometimes from my perspective, but there's so many different stories out there that can be told. I know we've had some military folks that have gotten it done to honor people in their family. I know that there's been people honoring their grandfather, their family business. There's so many different ways you can have a documentary done about your family, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it because Chance does first-class job where he tells the story, and it's a story that you're going to watch. You're going to be like, you know what? Can we rewind that and watch it again? That was great. People don't rewind anymore. Apologies to Jackson. But you'll want to watch it again, and you'll want to watch it with people. And then you're going to be like, you know what? Our cousin didn't get to watch it. We talk about her in this. Let's get her in this story. That is the beauty of a heritage film. It is a storytelling time that can be shared by generation after generation. And there's, of course, the Year Flicks, which is a 20-minute option. The heritage film is a 2-hour story, typically hour and a half to 2-hour story. The Year Flicks is a 20-minute Q&A that is more reserved as a benchmark video for the youngers in your family. Freshman year of college, your kid goes to A&M, you want to tell that story. Sophomore year, they move into their first apartment. They did the dorms freshman year. They do the apartment the second year. Junior year, they start finishing it. They get their Aggie ring. Senior year, they fall in love. They get married. You got a 4-part series right there with a Year Flicks, 20 minutes Q&A done the right way. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341, or check out the website, yourheritagefilm.com. That is yourheritagefilm.com. Welcome back into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. So happy for the baseball bunch to be back here on February the 16th, 2024. Scott Clendenin, hello.
Good morning.
What's up, buddy?
How are y'all?
Good, man.
Merry Christmas.
It is Christmas morning.
For you all, yeah.
Don't make that face.
Don't come at me.
High and tight, Nuño.
Yeah, that's right. Why do people make jokes?
You made a joke. You looked at him.
I just looked.
No, yeah, but you knew you were casting judgment.
But you were casting judgment on me.
Right, because you cast judgment on him. If you just say, hey, I get it, Christmas morning for the baseball. It is. It's the greatest day. It's one of my favorite days of the entire year, without question. It's Christmas morning for me.
Well, I treat all my sports the same. Like they're all my favorite kids.
I'm sure that Friday before the football opener against Notre Dame, you'll be real low key. And
I will. I'm not low key. I'm excited. I gave a great intro. Like, hey, it's great. It's been a while.
Okay. I missed it.
Yeah.
Richard's here too.
Hi, Richard Zane. How are your keys doing?
Yeah.
Did you guys hear what
stole
happened?
my keys last night or yesterday. I'll tell you guys. Stole is a bad word. He mistakenly,
I think they were here,
blindly grabbed them because I put my keys yesterday afternoon in the same spot he usually does.
And I took it.
It was a mistake. But okay.
Richard, good to have you, sir.
Great day, Christmas Day, but it's also the Brauninger Bowl.
Pardon?
We can't get too far into this without mentioning the fact that Ryan Brauninger played baseball at McNeese State University. I'm not sure anybody's ever heard that before.
Well, I don't talk about it that much.
Yeah, you've only posted the photo of yourself this morning.
I did
before,
but
8
it's
a.m.
like I'm a little bit conflicted. Obviously, I've got diplomas hanging above my bed from both universities.
Sure.
And some of the best years of my life were spent in Lake Charles. So
you had a pretty nice career. I was looking at your stats.
I was
this
okay.
morning.
I was
a
okay.
career 297 hitter. That
helps. That helps. In my senior year, I hit like 340 and was all conference. But that was
339 with 7 home runs and 33 at Ribbies.
Why didn't you say 3 for 39?
Oh, and Scott, get this. In 2009, he also pitched 3 1/3 innings.
That's not true.
That's what it says on your.
I know those things are very old. It also has
before the internet.
It also has.
It happened before the internet.
The 2008 roster, I'm listed at 5'7", 165, and
I
haven't been 5'7", 165 since 7th grade.
Right.
You had a growth spurt.
Anyway,
It's interesting.
It's cool. It's a cool day, man. Like I'm pumped that McNeese is coming. I've got some friends coming up from Lake Charles. Obviously, still have some ties to the team. There's some A&M ties to the McNeese team with Mikey Honer, former A&M catcher, being on the staff there at McNeese. So
Sam
there's
Houston
a lot.
ties.
What's that?
Sam Houston ties.
What do you mean?
Head coach was at Sam Houston with Mark Johnson.
I didn't know that. I didn't know Coach Hill was there.
And then their hitting coach and recruiting coordinator played at Sam Houston.
No, not anymore.
Oh, he left?
He's at Tarleton now. He's the first assistant at Tarleton.
All right. So where are you with this particular A&M? I'm taking over since this is a condensed version of the show. Where are you with this A&M team as opposed to a year ago? Like when we were coming in, there was a lot of expectations based on how the prior year went. Where are you with this team? Clendenin, you start us off.
Well, I think that the same question last year about pitching was the season. What was it at? Mm-hmm. In the field, in the batting lineup, I feel just as good as I did last year, if not even more, because I think the talent level has continued to rise in this program. Pitching wise, it's a fresh voice. I like the guys that are back. I like the newcomers, and I think that the pitching staff is poised to do very good things. Talking about before we got on the air, but I also think when you look at this league that has 5 other teams in the top 10, you have to be good. The SEC is rising because everybody that is in the transfer portal that is of quality is looking at this league. Can I get on an SEC roster? Player after player, team after team, everyone is seeing that. You have to be better than you were 3 years ago to go as far as you want to, because this league each and every week is going to be a dogfight.
I think when we go back and examine where we were going into last season, there was reason for the confidence, especially on the position player side, but nobody could predict that Brett Minnick was going to get hurt in his first at bat of the season, right? And kind of throw all the plans that they had up in the air. Nobody thought Austin Bose would take a step back. Nobody thought Ryan Targash would take a step back. We expected some things out of guys. We didn't know that Jace Lavalette was going to take about a month and a half before he proceeded to set an A&M school record for homers and have one of the greatest freshman seasons we've ever seen. That being said, that happening last year, and I said this to you on air like a couple weeks ago, as an analyst and you're trying to prognosticate on what's going to happen, you have to look at each team independently. So like Scotty said, when you look and examine this A&M roster and we start going through our predictions, you have to say, in terms of overall baseball talent, it is better than last year's team. Does that mean they're going to play better? Who knows? But you're making an examination on all this stuff. Like, so whenever, Scotty did his predictions for a really high home run total, so did I. But it's not out of the question that this team can do that. It all comes down to what happens when the lights turn on, and somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's not going to play to the expectation level that we have for them, and somebody will exceed expectations that we have for them. That's typically the way a baseball season works. So when factoring in all of that, and you look at this group, last year they couldn't absorb injuries. On the mound, they couldn't absorb injuries position player-wise. This year's team, without question, can do a better job of intaking negatives and mixing and matching to find the best 9 each and every week. No question about it.
I think this team, when I compare my expectations and excitement level for last year's team versus this one, I want to say, like Scott and Ryan, they were very similar, right? Last season, I think they were preseason number 5. This year, they're preseason number 8. We've seen the talent. We've talked about the names that are here versus last year. But they had a lot more proven commodities last year that didn't put it together, like Brauninger just listed them off. So, yes, I'm excited. I think this team could be really good. I think they've got more depth both on the field and on the mound. I just need to see it. And these next few weeks before you get to SEC play are going to give you a little bit of what you need to see. But once you get into the meat of this conference schedule, that's when we'll finally start figuring out whether our expectations meet reality.
If there's a hole, and pitching I know we'll talk about, but if there's a hole in this team that we're not seeing, where's the hole, Brauny?
Well, I think when you ask that question, what you're looking at is, if things go south, where could they go south? Because you have to do that as well when you're looking at a baseball season. When you guys are going to do this leading into football, right? You're going to talk about how great of a player Connor Wigman is and the skill talent could be really good, and you're intrigued by what they return in the front 7. But where could the holes be? So for this baseball team, I've got 2 big ones. What's the pitching look like? Like there's a chance that the pitching struggles again, because I believe in Max Wiener. I believe in the personal plan he's put together for a lot of these pitchers and how he's changed them. I believe they're going to throw more strikes, but until they do it, you have to say that is a big question mark entering this season. Secondly, are they going to strike out too much? Now, there's a caveat in there that you can strike out a lot and still slug, hit doubles and homers, and be fine. But do we get into week 5 or 6 of the season and start going, man, these strikeouts are a problem? Because they struck out a lot in the fall game at U of H against some quality arms, and there's going to be some swing and miss in here. Now, the reward will be a bunch of home runs potentially. Right. But I think those are 2 big questions. And then my tertiary, I would be, can they play as good a defense as they did last year?
I think that, and Coach Schlossnagle talked about it yesterday, I think the dynamic between guys that aren't playing and are playing, because you're going to have such competition. You're going to have guys that star on a Tuesday that aren't playing on the weekend and then maybe follow that up again, and how you mix all those guys together. That's a 4D chess that these coaches have got to do to keep guys locked in, all pointed in the right direction. The older guys have been. The guys you brought in have been on teams where Braden Montgomery didn't. He was, Pac-12 Freshman of the Year. But Ted Burton had to grow into what he was at Michigan. Some of these guys started on the bottom part of a ladder and moved their way up, so they've already been through it. Freshman guys have never had that. They've been the stars of their teams and their select teams their whole lives. This mixture in this day and age in college baseball between the portal transfers and the freshmen that come in is a mix that every coach has to deal with, because you want to get guys a chance to play, and you've got to keep them all pointing in the right direction and not worry about, hey, when am I going to get my chance? And I think that isn't on the field, but that's a concern, because it's not for lack of talent these guys aren't there, and that's why I think the depth is better, but it's just how do you get that mix in and have successful non-conference, because the conference is going to be a bear. So you want to win these non-conference games at all costs.
To Scott's point, there's going to be elite level talent sitting the bench tonight for Texas A&M, and whether that be youngsters or experienced guys. Like Caden Sorrell is a true freshman from my part of the state, and he turned down the chance to go play professional baseball to come to Texas A&M. He might not start tonight.
Right.
Who knows when he gets to start? Last year, that wasn't really the case. You had your true freshman that turned down draft overtures and Jace Lavalette to come here, and he was in the lineup on opening day, and then worked his way into having an all-American freshman season. So, yeah, I'm right there with Brauny about needing to see the pitching. I'm right there with Scott on seeing how they handle the dynamics of who's playing and who's not. And Coach Schlossnagel, as Scott said, mentioned it yesterday. And then the defense, man. I know they've got some elite level defenders on this team that are going to start. Ollie Camarillo's really slick at shortstop. We all know about the arm that Braden Montgomery's going to possess in right field, but how do they do it collectively as a whole?
All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with more. Right now, career opportunities at the Association of Former Students. If you're looking for a reason to come back to Aggieland or are already in Aggieland and searching for a great opportunity to help other Aggies, you need to reach out to the Association of Former Students who want to hire professionals to join their team. They got openings in fundraising, former student programs, and much, much more. They are the nation's premier alumni association, serving the oldest organization in A&M of support of that Aggie network. They play a part in every Aggie story from Howdy to here. Don't miss an opportunity to help out the association with Howdy Socials, Aggie Reading Day, class reunions, Aggie Muster, and everything in between. Join a team that exemplifies those Aggie core values of excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, and selfless service, all in support of that Aggie network. If you're interested in joining the team or sharing with someone who would be a great fit, please visit tx.ag/association jobs. Again, that is tx.ag/association jobs to apply and get more info on each position. It's the Association of Former Students. All right, TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. We made a decision. We're going to start the baseball bunch 20 minutes earlier next week.
Nice.
Ryan Brauninger, career stats there.
Dude, could your
Knicks.
eyes be any wider, further apart?
Probably a lot of pre-workout.
Not a great pick.
You're wearing your hat a little lower.
Well, I've lost some hair. Those hats didn't fit great either. Thanks for making that, Nick. Can you send that to me? That's great. Thank you.
I knew we had graphics.
It's right up there with Dalton Hughes' hurling Hebrew graphic.
I will say that I think the home run numbers will be higher. I got hurt my junior year and missed about half the games. But, no, it was good. I mean, my senior year there, I was decent player. Decent player, enough that I got a shout to go play some international stuff, which I should have done.
336. 339 as a senior. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah.
Ryan Prager, Justin Lampkin, Shane Sadeo this weekend. Let's talk about the rotation, what it could look like here in a couple of weeks, and what it is this weekend, Brian.
Yeah, it's fully what I expected going into the weekend when I heard that Tanner Jones may be on the shelf for a little bit. I do think that once Tanner is healthy, he will integrate himself into that weekend rotation, then probably bump Sadeo out just because of how valuable he can be in multiple games. But I'm pumped for Shane because I think Shane has earned that third start or that third spot in the rotation throughout the course of the preseason. The first two are guys that I expected to be in there.
I still like Wansing. I think that we saw at the end of last year, left-handed pitching, and it was funny that Coach Scott asked about that yesterday and talked about it. This is elite left-handed pitching. If when you look at this group right here, and there's one guy out of that isn't in the rotation this weekend, but then you can have two of them not in there going forward because you get that power right-hander and Tanner Jones back. I love the fact that you have this kind of left-handed pitching depth, and I think that Coach talked about it as well, that how that made them better when they inter-squatted and all that, all the time that you had to work against this kind of talented, and that certainly with the right-handers too has made this a better ball club with the pitchers they've had to face in their work up to the season.
I like that they've got so many options and options with experience. I mean, we haven't seen Ryan Prager in a year. The last time we saw him was as a true freshman at the College World Series. Justin Lampkin pitched more innings than any freshman in the Southeastern Conference this last year. Shane Sadeo's was really good last year, one of the more trusted arms out of the bullpen, so I really like that he's getting the opportunity. But, Scott, to your point, you're mentioning Wansing, who's got great experience from Purdue, and then last year the SEC tournament and into the NCAA tournament was really a guy the Aggies hung their hat on. You've got Tanner Jones, who's an option. You've got Chris Cortez, who's done it before. So they've got options to run out there as starters where I don't think they had as many of that last year, as many of those guys last year. And don't forget, Evan Ashenbeck can make starts if they have to. Obviously, they don't want to, but he certainly can.
We've got 2 minutes because that's the why, so we have to start earlier next week. Let's do the lineup.
Well, why can't we cut into Billy's airtime?
We probably can because I don't know when he'll be here.
There's no chance he'll be here on time.
Your choice.
That's the battle. I don't know if
Unfortunately, I will not be here, but I will be listening.
Well, then you do your lineup first, right?
Okay.
Quickly.
Okay. All right, my lineup. I don't know if they've got a graphic with my lineup. I like Burton. I like the ability of Appel to give you something there at the top. They could move up one and somebody go to 9. Then I wouldn't be surprised because that does give Montgomery and Jace more at bats. I just look at the depth of that 5, 6, 7. Where would they be 5, 6, 7 in anybody else's lineup than what the guys are in front of them? Even if they do move up some, I like Kent as a DH, especially because this was by the time SEC play comes along. But you mentioned on the boards last night about Johnson being in there, and Camarillo, he has always been at the top of a lineup. When he was in his first 2 years in college, where's he going to end up? Is he going to be better after he gets on the field for the Aggies? That's going to be interesting to see.
I do think it's important to note that these are projected lineups by the SEC opener, not tonight.
Yeah, not tonight.
I actually think tonight we're going to see Hayden Schott hitting the 4-hole.
Oh,
wow.
Because here's the thing. The guy has some Jack Moss qualities with the way he sprays the ball across the field, and he gets a bunch of hits. So and it's kind of a new age model in professional baseball to put a high contact guy in the 4-hole because you're expecting guys on base.
And he combines all that with an elite level personality.
I haven't watched the video yet. I need to do that.
You should.
It's pretty good. Gentlemen, you two may be back. I don't know. Probably not, but you may be back. You won't be back.
I hope we get to steal some of Billy's airtime. Lord knows I'm due for some.
All right. Thank you in advance, just in case. That was awesome. We'll do 40-something minutes next week. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with more at TexAgs Radio. We're going to do a little more baseball bunch, minus Scott Clendenin here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. I had a back and forth with a listener. Sometimes I think texting can come across a little bit more cold than you mean things, right? Sometimes.
There's no tonality in text.
No. But it's also can be pretty much what you text is pretty much what you mean. So I had a back and forth. I didn't know that Charles Goodnight was a Texas legend here. And some people were disappointed that I didn't know that was a real last name.
I don't know who that is either. So
what is that? Educate
somebody,
me.
yeah,
Please,
educate
No.
educate me.
I was told to Google, but this gentleman, we went back and forth, and I just responded not as nice as I should have. I recognize that. I said I don't Google everything that is said on the show. I did apologize. So listen before you text or don't text.
Maybe we should set up.
But I should have been nicer. I'm sorry.
Maybe we should set up some of the people in the back to kind of serve as Tony Reale does on
fact checkers
on PTI that fact checks everything we say.
Yeah, I don't.
Everything you say, because I'm only on one.
Well, I make a lot of mistakes, so those fact checkers will be doing it for a while. But I didn't know that was a real last name. I thought it was like somebody picked that as a last name, and I meant no disrespect, but I even said that at the time. But that's good night.
I knew a guy whose last name was Good Enough.
See, I wouldn't believe that if somebody told me that was their name when I first met him. Like, for reals?
Mm-hmm. For reals. For reals.
I know a guy named James for reals.
Really?
No, not for reals. Not at all. Let's get back.
Yeah, there's a guy. One of my favorite internet memes is it's a screenshot of this guy's Facebook page, and his name is Howie Do It, and then obviously the caption is "This is how we do it."
That's pretty good.
So silly.
That's one of my favorite internet memes. Gotta get a pop every time out of me.
Hey, we didn't get to your lineup, so we should probably go.
Or mine, really, but it's okay. Start with Richard.
No, go ahead and let Brauninger take the lead here.
All I've mentioned was that tonight's lineup may be different than how it is when they start SEC play, and that was the goal that was what we were asked to do when we made our lineups.
Right.
How is it going to be at the start of SEC play? Obviously, a lot of this can change. A lot of this can change quickly. I mean, you're looking at some positional battles there. Like tonight, for instance, I think Blake Benderup's going to start at first base.
Yep.
And Ted Burton, if he's in the lineup tonight, will be the DH. There's also, there's a huge position battle for that DH spot. It could go to 3, 4, 5 different guys. We've talked about the depth of the lineup. Richard mentioned Caden Sorrell. Jet Johnston has had a fantastic run into the season. Kicking
combined with a really good fall,
too. He can really swing the bat, got a lot of juice, a lot of pop. Jack Bell's a name that we haven't mentioned today. Hugely talented freshman out of Corpus, left-handed hitter, infielder, can really, really pick it. Made a really nice play the other night when Richard and I were out there with that open practice and scrimmage. So there's going to be options. All these 9 names aren't guaranteed. Even if those are the 9 that start tonight, it could look different by 3 or 4 guys once we get to SEC play.
Richard?
I think you'll see when my lineup looks very similar to Ryan's, just from the 9 who are in there. I know that this staff feels really good about the options they've got at the top of the lineup, whether it be Burton or Appel, if Burton's in there, obviously. But Brauninger, getting to know him over the last few years and having him share some of his baseball philosophy and baseball brain with me, I understand that he's a big have somebody down there at the lineup that can help set the table for the top of the order. So I think that's why one of them would be hitting first and the other one hitting 9, should they both be good to go and actually playing up to expectations.
I do think Jackson Appel, I think, has won the catcher's job. I mentioned that on the boards last night, and that's not to say that Max Coffer has been bad.
Right.
Jackson Appel has played really well. So, early in the season, I think we'll see Jackson Appel catch 2 out of every 3 games. When it goes to conference play, you could see Jackson going 3 out of every 4 if he continues to play at the level that he has. He's gotten on base, and that's something he did at Penn, and that was like one of those biggest question marks for him coming over was, is he going to get on base at that high of a rate like he did at Penn? He's in that same area, which is really good for a lineup that's got some thump and thunder in it, right? You want guys on base.
All right, so we've mentioned some of the newcomers there. Which newcomer could have the biggest impact on the results this season?
Well, you're going to have
Gavin Grahovic?
No.
Or Braden Montgomery?
You're going to have to qualify that, right? Because if you're just talking about the transfers, then you'd have to take out Braden because that's the easy answer.
Right.
If you're just talking about the freshmen, then you'd have to take out Gavin. Because that's the easy answer. I think answering that question without Gavick as the answer for the freshman is a little bit tougher to do on the offensive side.
Okay.
And really on the pitching side because they're so deep and talented in that freshman class on the mound as well. I think Caden Sorrell is really on a great trajectory. That kid will play professional baseball. I don't know how much he'll play this year. Is he the 4th outfielder? Do they go Travis Chestnut as the 4th outfielder? You're going to have situations where Hayden Schott hits in the 6th or 7th inning, and maybe Travis Chestnut goes in to run for him. Then does Travis stay in defensively, or do they go Caden Sorrell? Like, they've got some options in the outfield. I wrote about that. Their outfield defense should be much improved from where it was last year. But then from the transfer side, I'm telling you, man, we've talked a lot about Hayden Schott as what he does in the locker room, the clubhouse, what he does to the culture of the team, and how just the energy he brings to the group. I don't know that we've talked about him enough as a hitter. Like, this guy can really, really hit. So he could have a huge impact on this.
What kind of numbers does that mean?
Well, if you look at his career at Columbia, he's been a 300 hitter with double-digit homers, I think, in back-to-back years. I could be wrong on that, but he's had a sensational career at Columbia. And when you watch him take BP and you watch him hit in games, it's like we're not making up this Jack Moss thing.
Right.
Remember, Jack Moss would hit balls down the left field line, down the right field line, hit a lot of balls to center field. Hayden Schott does all that with a little bit more thunder than Jack.
Wow.
So now, I think Hayden's going to strike out more than Jack did because there is a little bit more thump and thunder, and he wants to create some havoc when he hits. Jack was just a consummate professional, would never give up an at-bat. I think Hayden will cheat to some balls, cheat to some areas of the plate to try to hit them out if he gets in good counts where Jack would kind of stay with his approach. But in terms of, spray chart, it's going to look pretty similar to Jack.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you were right, by the way, on the over 300 with double-digit doubles and double-digit homers in both of Schott's 2 seasons at Columbia. So good job, Brauny. Strikeouts, though, Jack Moss struck out 47 times and 46 times in his 2 years at A&M, albeit facing better pitching than Schott faced in the Ivy League. Schott struck out 31 times and 44 times in 22 and 23, respectively.
That's a question. It's why, again, you have to look at the positives, which we've talked a lot about with this ball club, but you have to start examining where could it go bad, and there is some swing and miss. Braden Montgomery, his walks went way down as a sophomore at Stanford. Can he continue to control the strike zone? Jace Lavalette sat in here in an NIL interview, in one of the greatest quotes I've ever heard from Jace. I've known him a long, long time. He said, his season will be defined by the pitches he doesn't swing at. Now, how mature is that for a guy that hit 21 homers last year and is one of the premier power hitters in the conference?
How mature is that from a guy that goes by Lord Tubbington?
And so when you look at, but there is, Ryan Targach has struck out a lot in his career.
Yeah.
Can he cut it down? Ted Burton has kind of struck out a little bit in this preseason lead-up. Can they cut it down? Blake Benderup will go through some spells where he'll swing and miss and strike out. So first of all, can they control the strike zone? Can they swing at strikes, take balls? That's priority number one with Jim Schlossnagle and Michael Early. Second of all, when these guys swing, how much damage are they doing? That's where the upside is with this offense. When they swing, they can do real damage. We haven't talked at all about the potential season of Gavin Grahovic, but his numbers could very much mimic what Jace Lavalette did last year in the batter's box.
Let's navigate the schedule. At what point do we know this team? Last year, I think there were signs early that we knew who they were going to be. And then, obviously, Jace got going, SEC play got going. But if you look at this, is it as simple as saying when we get to Arlington, is it SEC play?
No way.
No, it'll be later.
Because think about,
got to be a couple weeks into SEC play.
Yes, because if you go back and look at 2022, we thought we knew early in the year, remember?
And we didn't.
And it all flipped.
Yep.
And so last year, I remember you're going, man, they really struggled early in the year with runners in scoring position. They swung and missed. The pitching staff's walking everybody, but it can get better. It'll get better. And it just they struggled with those things all season long.
Mm-hmm.
But in the previous year, they struggled with similar things. Then all of a sudden they go to LSU and then they go to Austin and the whole thing flipped in those road trips. And so just, the ups and downs of the season. That's why I thought Scotty brought up a really good point in the first, in the 9 o'clock hour, was managing this roster is going to be one of the toughest things they do because of you have really good players on the bench. How much leash do you give to guys that are starters? How much leash do you give to a guy like Ryan Targach compared to Ted Burton? Both old guys that have had a bunch of college at-bats.
Yep.
One has done it here, one has done it elsewhere. Is there a difference there? Managing personalities, right? What is the team buy-in going to be? You can say a lot of things about last year's ball club. It was not a culture problem that led to their issues.
No.
Those guys loved being Aggies. They were selfless. They were great teammates. They're great human beings, all of them. Are you going to have that same type of buy-in? Because it's important that the guys on the bench don't start separating themselves, right? Misery loves company.
Right.
I'm not playing. That guy's not playing. Let's sit on the end of the bench and talk about why we should be playing. And that can kind of grow into everybody that feels like they should be playing more will be sitting in that area, and it's toxic. So that is a huge dichotomy of this season and how the buy-in, the overall well-being and what kind of teammates are they going to be. And they talk about how they get along. Every one of them will talk about how much this team gets along, how much fun they have together, but they ain't played a game yet.
Yep.
And they haven't written one lineup yet. So we'll see how all that's managed.
Dichotomy. What a word.
It's
what
a great
good
word.
This guy just puts his vocabulary on display each and every time he sits in this studio.
Thanks for adding to my point.
I agree.
Dynamite.
And scene.
Dynamite
Sorry,
drop.
what was the question?
Navigate the schedule. When do you think you'll know who this team is?
I mean, I sat here in 2022 and I was the negative person here, even though they were winning all these SEC series, and I don't think I let myself enjoy that run they went on because I thought I knew who they were when they were showing me, and I just didn't want to believe it. So to me, it's going to have to be way later in the year. It's going to have to be towards the end of April to where I get a feel for, I think I know this team, because as Brauny said, things flip like crazy. We thought we knew who this team was on opening day last year with all these experienced guys who had had great careers coming back, and then the bottom of the first inning, Brett Minnick breaks his hand and everything changes. So things can flip like that. They can flip early. They can flip late. I'm going to try this year to separate my expectations from my ability to enjoy this team for who they are each and every night, and I hope that get to learn that this team is going to meet those expectations when the time is right.
I'd like to add something else to it. The question marks, like the talent level of this team is unquestionable.
Yep.
But some questions that I think will be answered and can to help them reach their full potential. You know, are they going to be willing? You know, how gritty are they on defense? Are they willing to play heartbreaking defense where it's going to take you to crash into a wall, slide into a fence? You know, how good on the entire season are they going to do the non-pretty stuff? Get hit by pitches in 2-strike counts. Lay down. Slosh doesn't bunt a lot, but if somebody's asked to do it, do they get their feelings hurt or do they sacrifice for the team and get it down? How good can this Texas A&M be at the non-pretty baseball things, winning baseball things? That goes down to attitude and subject matter of conversations in the clubhouse and in the dugout. That goes down to picking up teammates between innings. That goes down to if I'm sitting on the bench, can I find, is the pitcher tipping pitches? Can I pick the coach's signs? Is there any competitive advantage that I can help us win with today while I'm sitting on the bench? And then the guys that are on the field, like I said, are you willing to fight off pitches and take some ugly swings to win an at-bat to hit a ground ball to the second baseman to get a run home? You know, like the non-pretty stuff. The real gritty baseball stuff, can they do it? Because if they can, when you match that with their talent level, now we're talking about potentially a pretty special season.
Who's the player on the team that we know that could have the biggest jump this year from what we've seen to what we get this year?
I want to say I want to go with a pitcher.
Prager?
And I'll go with two of them. I'll go with Ryan Prager and Justin Lampkin. Ryan Prager had a 5-something ERA in 2022. Justin Lampkin had a 5-something ERA in 2023. But this staff feels good about both of them and what they bring to the table in making the jump. Do they mesh with Max Wiener's philosophy of dominating the zone? Do they minimize walks? Do they get ahead in the counts? And do they live ahead in counts? That's what I want to see. And to what we were just talking about, if everybody on that staff, not just those two guys, can do that more consistently and minimize those walks, then I will take a much further step towards feeling like I know who this team could be. So, yeah, for me, it's those two left-handed starters and really starting pitching as a whole.
Yeah, for the sake of I'll stay on the pitching side because I think that's where that question is going to be answered. Look, there's no question that if they get the best version of Chris Cortez, it would be a huge X factor on the season. Now, they can survive with him not living up to his potential, but if he gets there, it would be massive for this ball club. I'm kind of, see it and believe it mode with Chris. But outside of that, a guy that I think is going to pitch a lot that we haven't talked about because he's completely reshaped his arsenal under Max Wiener, who has a history of finding what a guy does really well and either adding to his arsenal or subtracting from his arsenal to make him as effective as possible. Josh Stewart out of the bullpen.
Okay.
He's completely a new guy, And it said a lot to me that Gavin Grahovic in his NIL Texas Aggies United interview that I had leading up to the season this week, he mentioned Josh Stewart as the toughest at bat for him.
Wow.
Because of the new pitch shape of that slider sweeper that he's throwing so much. And it's kind of completely remade him as a pitcher. So you're talking about a jump where he pitched very little last year, and when he did, he kind of got beat up, to a potential relied upon arm in tight spots out of the bullpen. That may be a guy to look at to answer that question.
Let me throw you an offensive player. Maybe Ryan Targac bouncing back to closer to what we saw in 22 than what we saw in 23.
I mean, if you just take those 2 seasons and you get the average of that, I think that's a huge. You take it,
sure,
and run with it.
And people forget, like he did struggle early, and he did struggle a lot early in the SEC play, but down the stretch, about Mississippi State,
when they needed it,
and then he goes to the conference tournament, and then hit a couple, maybe 3 home runs in the regional, like. When Ryan Targac gets going, he's as effective as an offensive weapon as anybody they've got on this roster. Look, he dealt with the foot thing. We know he feels physically better. I think he's in a much better mental spot going into the season than he was last year. And you're right. Like, the way that Chris Cortez could be an X factor on the pitching staff, I think Ryan Targac could be that guy on the hitting side.
Just as a reminder, he almost hit 300 in 22. He hit 224 last year. So to your point,
he led the SEC in RBI in 2022.
That's right.
It's insane.
All right, we'll hit a break.
And sorry to cut you off, but he's also a switch hitter. The versatility there can't be overlooked either.
Yep, and he's a name that I think we talk about, but like we forget like what his potential is, what we've seen from him.
Yep.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with more. Right now it's Costa Vida time. You know, if you go to Reed Arena, you can get your Costa Vida on for men's and women's basketball games. So you know that. But now baseball season's here, and we've got exciting news. Costa Vida's Fresh Mexican Grill will have a concession stand at Olson Field now down the third base line. The menu will consist of chili lime chicken. Why do I say it like that? Chili lime chicken. Sweet pork burritos, chili lime chicken and sweet pork baja bowls, chips and queso, key lime pie, and for cooler weather, Mexican hot chocolate. In the store, they obviously have the Costa Vida Home Run Combo, a favorite option of Jason LaVallette, and number 12, Ryan Targac. The Home Run Combo is an entree with sweet pork enchiladas smothered in house-made queso, or queso as you guys say it, with rice and beans, and a large drink for $11.99. So that's the case when you go there. Remember, they are Aggie owned and operated. You got to say hi to Holly when you go out there. 4501 Mills Park Circle in South College Station. Again, that is 4501 Mills Park Circle in South College Station. You can get them there. You can get them at Reed Arena. And now you can get them at Olson Field. Go check out Costa Vida. Good morning and good night. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Brauny Insurance Studio.
That's probably the most well-played thing you've done today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I did an old one. When I heard you guys laugh, I gave you a look of approval. Like
that was good.
Yeah,
well done.
Well played.
Hey, can you, real quick?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me who's probably going to play shortstop tonight? What's that kid's name?
Ali Camarillo.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Do it again, please.
Or Ali Camarillo.
Well, no.
How do you? I forget how you guys say it.
Camarillo.
Ali
Camarillo.
Camarillo.
Yeah, like you rolled. You
Ali
attempt to roll the
Camarillo.
L's.
No,
It's not
I
like
want you to
Amarillo.
pronounce it like that every time. Like,
Hey.
by the way, you're gonna. Well, I don't know if you'll dig his walk up because it's not reggaeton, or Caribbean or South American Latin music.
Right.
But it is very much.
What is it?
It's like a La Banda Tejano.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've been jamming that a little bit. By the way, just for clarity, I grew up in Texas and I went to Texas schools. I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
Thank you. You're
right.
talking to one person on the text.
No, there's like 9.
That don't think that you grew up in Houston.
Yeah, and
You
Nick,
just missed that one unit when you were in the.
I missed
spending the 5th grade.
But
and
one
semester. in
One
the
thing I
5th
did
grade
learn.
elsewhere.
I forget who texted this, but Charles Goodnight was where Lonesome Dove originated from. So
yeah, I didn't know that either, and I had to look that up. And I'm obviously, so is Richard, and so are you. Born and bred and proud to be from Texas.
Yep.
So and I love Texas history, and I did not know who Charles Goodnight was.
But
Learn something new and make it a great day, Brauny.
Hey,
it's already a great day. It's opening day.
Can I
Can't ruin my mood.
I'll ask at the break because I have a question for both of you on a particular thing. But let's move on here.
¿Tú tienes una pregunta para
Sí, para ti,
nosotros?
señor. No, sorry. I got a question for you, Brauny.
No hablo.
Brauny and Richard, I want both of your opinions. The answer, I think, is obvious, but let's not make it obvious. Who leads this team in homers and why? And if it's not Jace, who is it?
Well, I think if it's not Jace, listen, there are people that believe that Jace may have changed his approach and he's going to hit for a high average and hit less home runs. I would strongly disagree with that because, as we've talked about, if Jace hits in the 340 range or even north of that, then it turns into just a flat-out math equation.
Yep.
Okay?
Can he catch Dalen Holt? Is the math equation.
If he hits 360, you're going to go, can this guy hit 40 homers? I just don't think Jace is going to do that. I think he'll master the strike zone and continue to maybe see the average tick up. I would think Jace is going to get in that 25 to 30 homer area, assuming he stays healthy, all that kind of stuff. But if it's not Jace, that's a good question. It's probably Braden, but there are some other guys that are really going to vie for that. Braden has never got to the 20 home run marker in his career. Now, he is bigger and stronger at Texas A&M than he was at Stanford. That Stanford ballpark does play a little small, and he's gotten to face off against pitching that's not as elite in the SEC. I would think Braden is going to be in that 15 to 20 homer range. A good season for Braden would push him in that 20, 21, 22, which I think you'd take every day of the week because he is going to hit for a pretty high average if his past numbers are any indicators. I think Gavin Grahovic is in that conversation. I think Hayden Schott's in that conversation. I think Ryan Targach is in that conversation. I think Blake Benderup is in that conversation.
I love how many options that we have if it's not Jace.
I mean, he's talked about math equations. He sat here and done the math. If you go look at our TexAgs staff predictions for the baseball season, and I know I ribbed Scott a little bit earlier about his, Brauny's got him tying the school record of 125 home runs in this season. And that I think that's got to be over the entire season, postseason included, but I mean, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. Right. This team last year hit 86, and that would have been like 4th or 5th bet most all time.
If Jet Johnston, if Jet Johnston is the everyday DH, Jet Johnston will hit 10, 15 home runs. Like that's what kind of juice he's got as a true freshman. If Jack Bell was in the lineup every day, I think Jack Bell, he's a small kid. Wait till you see him swing the bat. Like I compared him to Christian Knapczyk from Louisville, the starting shortstop at Louisville, who just terrorized A&M over the course of 2 years. I think he's a better prospect than Christian Knapczyk. Christian Knapczyk was like a slap hitter that could run. Jack Bell's got some real thunder. Like you watch him take BP, he's hitting balls off the batter's eye for a small guy. Like real player. Jack Bell's a real player. Caden Sorrell, if he's in the everyday lineup, Caden Sorrell hit 10 home runs, no question.
Who leads the team in average?
I think it's going to be Montgomery.
Yep.
But there's options there too.
Gavin Grahovic, man, the way he swings the bat, it's simple, It's a short stroke. It's a really good bat path and plane. Like, he's going to center a lot of baseballs. I picked him to lead the team in average, which is crazy for a freshman to do. But he is super talented. I hope the only thing, and this is another thing that we haven't talked about where things could not necessarily go south, but maybe you start off a little bit slower than you anticipate, is like, can Gavin Grahovic slow down his heartbeat and not think that I have to get a hit in this at bat or I'm coming out of the game? Like, hey, dude, you are going to be in the lineup. Just like Jace last year. Jim Schlossnagle has 55 lineup cards in 2023. Jace Lavalettes' name is going to be on every one of them. So there's not that pressure for you to go out tonight or this weekend.
And do this or that.
Right. Just go play. So can Gavin kind of lower his heart rate, not get sped up in the batter's box, make sure he's having quality at bats? If he does that and he gets off to a good start to build some confidence in himself, this kid could be pretty special. I'm just telling you, man, I love Jace. I think Gavin Grahovic is the best true freshman I've ever seen walk through the doors at Texas A&M.
Wow.
Position player.
Who leads the team in wins?
That's a tough question because in this league, you're going to be going like starting pitching.
Right.
I think Nolan Kane sat here with you in his interview and said that the average start in the Southeastern Conference last year, including Paul Skeens, was 4 2/3 innings for a starting pitcher. So a lot of guys aren't even reaching the threshold to be eligible for a win.
They've got to change that. If that's what the numbers are going to be, they need to shorten what the qualifications are for you to be eligible to get a win.
So, and baseball is changing as well. A lot of guys don't go through the order 3 times through anymore. So, how many guys did they get to that plateau? I think the leader in wins, because I'm assuming a bunch of the wins will be coming from guys in the bullpen, at least the guys who get credit for the win. That's why I went with Evan Aschenbeck, because I think he's going to pitch a lot. He's going to be relied upon in a ton of different situations, whether you're ahead or behind. He could vulture some wins. So I think Evan Aschenbeck will be the leader in wins.
If it's a reliever, I would pick Evan. If it's a starter, I would go Justin Lampkin. It's hard to pick your Friday night guy as your team leader in wins just because you know what he's going to be pitching against every Friday night. And unless it's a guy named Paul Skeens, who's a once-in-a-generation type of arm, for me in this league, it's hard to say your Friday guy is going to lead your team in wins. It's just there's too many X factors. The margin for error and the line between a win and a loss on Friday night is so fine. It's hard for me to predict that.
All right, let's close out with this. What do we expect to see this weekend? Maybe a little bit about McNeese and just what we expect overall.
Yeah, I can say this about McNeese. It's a program that has been really successful over the last 5 years. Justin Hill has turned into their best coach in their history. He has done great things for the program, for the facility there, and he's got a pretty good roster. Now, I don't think this year's version of McNeese is as good as they were last year. Last year, they were very, very talented. It would be a scary opening weekend matchup in terms of how they could match A&M and their play style. They got some really good players. Cooper Hext, potential All-Southland first team, I think preseason, but potential player of the year candidate there. Connor Westenberg's an outfielder from New Caney that can really run. Braden Duhan swings the bat. They've got an older roster, a lot of junior college, a lot of transfer kids. They're going to start a guy named Justin Voss on the mound tonight. Outstanding changeup. Fastball is going to be 88 to 92, but the changeup is his out pitch. I've been told the analytics on that are crazy, so I would expect for him to rely upon that a lot tonight to try to keep these A&M hitters guessing. But it'll be a solid ball club. They'll be better than most of the teams that when A&M opens seasons from the north. This McNeese club will be better than those.
Like a Fordham or a Seattle or a Wagner and Rhode Island come in here later in the year too. So yeah, McNeese I think it's a better starting point for the Aggies, a better measuring stick early on in the season, very early on in the season. But yeah, I think A&M should win the series, will win the series, and I think it's a better chance that they sweep McNeese than they drop one. However, you got to play the games. What I'm most excited to see is just baseball, man. I'm so tired of not having to go to a ballpark every single day. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see the newcomers in Maroon and White, and I'm really excited to see this pitching staff and see how quickly they can take to the dominate the zone mantra.
Brauny, Zane, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
When we come back, Billy Liucci on a mobile, that and more. You're listening to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go straight to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We're joined by Billy Liucci, the birthday boy. Billy, good morning, buddy.
What's up, buddy?
How was the party, or the fun, I should say? I don't know if it was a party, but how was yesterday?
I'd say it was a party. I was not expecting it. It was a surprise party.
That's awesome,
Hadn't
man.
had a surprise party since Michelle Haney, Amy Kahn, and Greg Fowler threw me one in like 1993 or something. Senior year, 92. So, yeah, that was nice. I had no idea it was a surprise. I was 4 people dinner, and it was awesome. I was shocked. So, fun night at the Mexican in Dallas. Great food, and heading back to College Station in a minute for opening day.
Well, I'm glad you say it like that because we just
Good
finished.
birthday weekend. Good birthday weekend.
Heck yeah, man. Aggie hoops at Alabama. We've got the baseball weekend. Just when you look at this baseball team, man, just how excited are you for what Schloss has built? This is year 3 now. He's got a lot of the guys he wants. It may all come down to pitching, but your excitement level.
Oh, I'm at a 10 of a 10. 10 out of 10 when it comes to excitement for Aggie baseball right now. And look, a massive, massive game tomorrow morning for Buzz Williams and crew against Crimson Tide down there too. Like that. I know we went on and on about it, but after losing to Vandy, I kind of said that kind of wipes out that Tennessee win. In terms of your resume, it has a potential to if that's a quad 4 loss, but you come back Saturday and you beat Alabama, and yeah, they might be the most schizophrenic team in the SEC, but at this point we'll take it, right? So if they can score a win tomorrow somehow, some way, and they've had success against Bama, then they're right back in the mix, and then you're saying 2 out of your last 3 wins have been just huge in terms of a resume builder. So we'll see that one, but baseball against McNeese, I'm so excited about what Slosh is building and have been from day one. You mentioned the pitching. I'm fired up to see what Max Weiner has been able to do with that staff during the off season, both the returning guys and all the new faces that we've been hearing our baseball crew talk about. And of course, I've been talking to the staff too, and they're excited. The players and coaches are fired up, and they'll always stop short of any sort of prediction or anything. And I think I heard Kendall a few weeks ago talking about it, and he's right. Like, when you do this as long as some of us have, you know it when you hear it, and the words don't need to be said. And I think they're really fired up about this baseball team for good reason, and I think they know it. So, it's baseball. You're going to, win a lot of games. You're going to lose some, and it's going to take some guys. Some guys are going to quickly round into form. Some it's going to take, a little bit into the season. So team is ever changing. We've learned that each of the last 2 seasons. But I think this one has a real chance to be Slosh's. I think it will be Slosh's best team. Whether they advance to a Final Four like his first team did, TBD. But I do think, just as far as the makeup of this baseball team, I think it's its best. I think this lineup's going to be absolutely lethal. Like, you just go up and down. It's incredible. It's incredible. Even some of the guys that are fighting, you've got transfers that are proven at big-time other places, and you've got true freshmen that could have gone to the draft, and everyone in between. And these guys are all fighting for playing time and for at-bats and for starts and things. So they've quickly turned this into, I think, just an absolutely loaded roster, certainly a loaded lineup. And then, we've been talking about it, and no one's saying anything that everybody doesn't know. This team will go as far as the pitching will take it.
Billy, this is not news to our audience because you've alluded to it, you've talked about it, but Tyreek Chappelle, now there's reports today that he's officially taken his name out of the portal, but this is something we've been talking about here, so you're not surprised by it at all.
No, that's something I think I broke that a while back.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and he's been back. He's back in school, and he'll go through spring ball. He's going through team workouts right now. That's, the ones that started this week. So it's an important, we already talked about it, but yeah, I mean, it's a very important addition. It might be a starting corner. I mean, he'll have to battle. You've got all those guys they brought in the portal from Ricks to Mays to Ricks, Mays. I'm losing track over here already. Will Lee. I mean, there's several guys that have started and played at a really high level that are here now that weren't. I think it's not counting Tyreek Chappelle. I think is it 4 or 5 corners. You got Hill out of Florida, who's more of a nickel, but he's in there. So there's a ton added. But remember, Chappelle's a 3-year SEC starter. He's a 3-year SEC starter. He's played good football at A&M. All those guys we said, there's not many of them that have his kind of experience at this level, the level that you're going to ask these guys to be playing at this fall. So anyone that writes him off, I think, would be foolish. And in fact, I don't know. You look at Lee and Mays and Chappelle and Ricks, and there's a couple more there. It's what they've done at that position just in one off season. Because there was a point, David, when Chappelle went in the portal, and I didn't know if he was going to go portal or try to just forego his final year. And when he went in, I was going, this position is as dire comes, especially coming off that bowl game where they didn't have anybody on the field that could come close to covering guys at Oklahoma State. And you saw it happen in that Ole Miss game, and you saw it happening against Bama, and it was just downright frightening to look. And obviously Elko and his staff felt the same way, and they went and they didn't just correct. I think they turned a glaring weakness into a massive strength.
Billy, we started the show today just like, I don't feel like in the 3 years I've done this show and really just my life of watching college football, it's ever been harder to really tell you win totals and really predict teams because of like all the changes A&M's had, all the changes Alabama's had, all these changes all these teams have. Conferences are changing where guys are new to, programs are coming in this year. I feel like wide open is not even the right way to phrase it. It's just hard to tell you anything because we don't know, because these are all new rosters.
Yeah, you don't know. I almost said, starting my new year off with a cuss word. You don't know jack. And here's the deal, David. We cover A&M here at TexAgs, backwards, forwards, up, down, inside, out. Nobody knows more about the inner workings or the little pieces of information and the tiniest bit of minutia. But it's just hard to have that same level of knowledge and expertise, even for the people that are supposed to do it, the national people of 16 teams in one league, much less the ones covering all of college football. But imagine 16 teams having that type of knowledge, because that's what it takes. Just look at what we just said, about the cornerback position. Look at what we just said about cornerback just by itself. I mean, it's a wild. Just to keep track of all the changes for A&M at corner, and imagine every position on A&M, we have to sit down and kind of go through the list. But then imagine doing that for Bama, for Florida, for Georgia, for Kentucky, for Tennessee, for Texas, for LSU, OU. I mean, every team is going to have the same issues that A&M had. A&M did not lose a ton via the portal. They didn't, and it's still hard to keep track of. And you got coaching changes, and you've got guys going portal and pro, and you've got, and then there's the normal difficulties of trying to project. So, yeah, I think we know that Georgia's going to be elite, and I think we know that Texas, Ole Miss, LSU should all be pretty good to varying degrees, though. I mean, now I saw somebody say, well, Texas should be a playoff team. I'm going, man, if you don't look at that, even though I think they have a relatively easy run, if you don't look at that schedule and can't see that they could potentially drop 3, they're going to Michigan, they got Georgia at home, and then 1 out of the other 10 games. And that's a team that most people, almost everybody that covers the sport, will have in the playoff. So it could go anywhere all over the map this season, I think. And then when you factor in all the uncertainty at Bama, it just makes this league that much more wide open. And you have wild card teams like like A&M. I think like OU. I think Auburn would fall into that category. I think Tennessee. I'm probably forgetting somebody, but there's a lot of these like kind of Missouri. See, again, Missouri should be pretty dang good. The conference is going to be completely wide open this year. It really is.
Billy, man, I don't want to take you away from driving back. Appreciate you coming on. We'll see you on Monday.
All right, buddy. See you Monday.
Later, man. Billy Liucci there. To close out the show. We talk a little bit about everything right there. That was a rapid Billy fire, right? We talked basketball, we talked baseball, we talked some football. We'll close it out. We'll open up the phone lines, too. And we got a couple minutes left on the show. Actually, we got to do double days. So I don't know if I'll open up the phone lines. We'll open up the text lines, 979-693-1150. We'll do that when we come back on TexAgs Radio. All right, it's time to end the day with Double Dave's. Caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's that has been serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click doubledaves.com, and your favorites are on their way. Nick, I should have done this earlier in the program, but I got to promote. We're going to be hanging out at a couple different Angry Elephants here with Billy. We're doing some Q&As over the next month.
Not you, my friend.
Yeah, Billy and myself.
Yeah.
But we as TexAgs as a community.
I wasn't invited, yeah. I guess I could show up. Then.
So my Metroplex family, you guys want to meet Luch? I'll be there with him, but Billy's the headliner there. We're going to be there at Little Elm. They're opening up the new Angry Elephant there at Little Elm Saturday, March 2nd. By the way, that's the big weekend. A&M basketball takes on Georgia, if I remember that correctly, and also A&M baseball will be at Arlington. 5 to 7 on Saturday, March 2nd, 2024, obviously, there at the Little Elm location. So we'll be in the Metroplex, hanging out, doing a Q&A at that Angry Elephant. Would love to meet and hang out with a bunch of you all. Billy and myself will be there. We will also be in Magnolia, right down the road from here, about, 45, 55 minutes away, on Saturday, March the 9th, 2024, 1 to 3 o'clock. I forget what game. Do you have the schedule up? Can you get the schedule up for me, Nick? There's a game going on at that time. I think we'll be there. I'll do Q&A.
You're talking about baseball, right?
I was talking basketball for that one. But baseball, there it is. And then on basketball, on March the 9th, it looks like Ole Miss.
Yeah,
so we'll
last
be doing
regular season game of the year.
Yep. The other thing I want to say is I know Kay was having some fun with the pictures and the drawing she made of my victims in basketball. I'm just
right here.
Yeah, I'm not going to play Olin Buchanan in basketball. I do not want a murder to happen. Right? I don't want an ACL injury to happen. I don't want a torn labrum to happen. I don't do that to my friends. Right?
You think OB would put you on skates like that?
No, I think OB would get hurt. Honestly, I think he'll over try, because I've seen him in the gym. It's a sight that you can't unsee. And Brauny knows sometimes.
I've seen him in the gym before, like a long time ago. I think I told you that the other day. I was still in school, and I saw OB working out at that same gym. And I didn't go say hi to him, but hey, he was curling some weight. I can tell you that much.
You know, as the great Sebastian Maniscalco talks about when he gets on the treadmill, he goes at a 5.0. It's like a valet service guy running to get your car. It's not a full sprint, right? That's how most of us do, especially when we're warming up. OB goes at 12.0, and he's got like a towel around his neck, like he's freaking Rocky. He is going 150 miles an hour. I just know, and Irma, I got you. It's not going to happen. Quinn, I got you. I love your dad. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I play a physical brand of basketball, and it's not pretty. It's not good. He will get hurt. So we're not going to do that, Kay. I know you're asking for it. Not going to happen.
That's too bad.
I mean,
she's booing back here.
Do we want Olin to end up with a torn ACL? No. Or even me. That guy.
Well, the first up in the list anyway is Luke.
Luke will probably beat me from the way you guys talked about. He'll probably beat me. Apparently he can hoop.
Yeah. I'm telling you, check out his huddle highlights.
Send it to me. I'd like to watch it.
No. What? I don't want to give you. Because I'm rooting for Luke. I'm on the loser side of the bracket here. I don't want
you guys
to give
are treating
you
me
his
like
film.
I'm the Golden State Warriors and Kansas City Chiefs. I've beaten two people who didn't play basketball.
Oh.
And I didn't play basketball. I'm not that good. And then people are going to I'm going to have real basketball players. Hey, I'll play.
At what point do we call it a dynasty?
I mean, it kind of already is. I'm just saying, we're in the middle of it. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. Let's go back. Nobody cares. Let's go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. I know you had a couple closing thoughts for us, Jackson.
Well, I had David Nuño's predictions for the betting lines. I was going to see what you think. What are the betting odds for Lavalette home run tonight for the baseball game?
I'm going to say yeah. I'm going to say he's going to hit 1.5.
All right. Total strikeouts, over under?
For Lavalette? Or the team?
No, for the team. Sorry, total.
6.
6, yeah. Player with the most hits tonight?
Braden Montgomery.
And final score prediction?
9-3 Texas A&M.
All right, that's all I got.
I think so. Thank you. That was less than a minute. All right. As we close out the program, big weekend for Aggie sports, right? Aggie hoops. Would you be surprised on the show on Monday I said A&M went and beat down Alabama? Would you be surprised if Alabama beat down A&M? I would be surprised by that. Would you be surprised by A&M basketball playing kind of like they did at Auburn and maybe this time having the mojo to finish it off? Remember that Auburn game was coming off a bad loss, and you're like, they're going to get destroyed. It was coming off the LSU loss. And they played really well in that game. More defined roles. Boots is playing really well. Wade is playing well. Henry found us a little bit of form the other night. Why not go to Bama, get that victory, make that Vandy loss kind of so on Monday, all of next week, we have something good to talk about. In baseball, let's sweep the series this weekend. All right, that's going to do it for TexAgs Radio. On a Friday, my thanks to Liucci, OB, Brauny, Scott Clendenin, Richard Zane, and, of course, Mark French, and all of you, even those who were surprised I did not know Goodnight as the last name. I apologize. I will do my research moving forward. I love you all. We'll see you on Monday.